Elf I am the protagonist template. Invincible Chapter 161-180. Chapter 161. Chill, Masked Man. For full order. Hootie. In Shui Jing's scream, the street test knife slashed Hootie's back with a shrill voice and blood splashing. And Hootie's body was also slammed into the air by the force of this powerful blow. His eyes rolled, his body spun and smashed through the reflection wall that could no longer be maintained, and he fell to the ground. Even, the remaining momentum is unabated. A blood line slipped out on the ground. The evil system has restrained the super energy system in the first place, and this attack has no defense at all, and it has been strengthened by the claw grinding skills. In addition, Hootie's own physical and physical defenses are extremely fragile. Therefore, even if Hootie's level was a little higher than Zoroark's, he still had no resistance at all, and he was instantly killed on the spot. You command Zoroark to leapfrog and kill Hootie in Shujing in seconds, and gain a little, battle experience plus 10 times 2, Zoroark's experience value plus 8 times 2, claws sharpening proficiency, experience plus 1x2, street test knife proficiency, proficiency plus 1 times 2. With the system prompt sound, on. Next second. An elegant one, turned over and jumped back to Bai Zi. Zoroark's breath in front of him instantly condensed, climbed up, and stepped up, a small stage, officially promoted to the middle level of the gym, level 40, 15/100. Promoted. The corner of Shui Jing's eyes twitched, and after clenching his teeth and retracting Hootie, he squeezed out a pokeball directly from his back waist. Fierce face. Without saying a word, he threw it towards Zoroark in the field. Go on, naughty thunderbolt. Self-destruct. With the sound of breaking wind one by one, Naughty Leiden flew out of the Pokeball and came to Zoroark's body with the momentum. Immediately afterwards, Naughty Leiden's body first emitted a hot red light, and then the dazzling yellow light lit up with a burst of dazzling white light, bringing with it bursts of yellow sparks, violently surging up. Open black lens bracket race. Naughty Thunderbolt close black lens bracket. Attribute: electricity. Feature: soundproofing. Level: Elite Peak, Peak level 34, 45/100. Qualification: Gym level. Introduction: Dazed Naughty Bomb. Seeing this, Bai Zi, who had obtained the information on the Naughty Mine Bomb for the first time, suddenly turned cold. This blow obviously counted him as well. The range of the explosion included the trainer, so he wanted to make Zoroark unavoidable. Really, self-inflicted. Move at high speed. Turn back quickly. Ow. Almost at the moment when Bai Zi gave the order, Zoroark, whose face was equally gloomy and cold, was already surging high with bursts of pitch, black mist, and the surging electric light all over his body made its speed as fast as lightning, electric. Pop. A crisp sound. When the Naughty Thunderbolt has not reacted. Zoroark had already dodged in front of this Naughty Thunderbolt before it exploded. Afterwards, he suddenly leaned down and squatted down, the red electric arc flashing in the ferocious eyes stretched out in the air at the corner of his eyes. Then quickly turned around. He swung his body quickly at a delicate angle, raised his left arm facing outward, and slammed it hard on the red and white center line of Naughty Lei's body. Beep beep. I didn't expect that the other party's actions would be so fast. The Naughty Thunderbolt suddenly hit a heavy blow, and suddenly let out a scream, and the intense pain made his muscles tense, and his body the surging electrical factor suddenly became chaotic. The thorns and the lightning flashed instantly, mixed with the general energy factor of the self-destruction trick surging, causing a violent conflict. Therefore, at the moment of flying backwards, the already powerful self-destruction skill seems to have caused a chain reaction when it is mixed with electrical factors. Save. Under Shui Jing's terrified gaze, the Naughty Thunder Bomb that flew to him exploded. Boom. Amidst the thorns and violent explosions, the surging flames mixed with the violent thunder light completely covered the violence of more than 10 meters in a radius. It even formed a small mushroom cloud. The dust, fog, and smoke also spread out in a turbulent direction in a ring. No need for Baizi to put out a hand. Nazisu, who was not far from her side, pushed her hand, and an invisible barrier suddenly rose up, preventing the incoming smoke from going any further. And then, you command Zoroark to kill Shujing's naughty thunderbolt in seconds. Gain a little, battle experience +1, Zoroark experience +1, high-speed movement +1, rapid reversal proficiency, practice +1. Your Zoroark defeated the Ghost Stone of Shujing, and gained a little, battle experience +1, Zoroark experience +1, high-speed movement +1, rapid return to mastery, practice +1. Well. Baizi raised his eyebrows slightly. Ghost Stone. Now. The smoke faded away. The scene in the field was immediately revealed in front of everyone. Shui Jing, who was scorched black and flew out far away, was obviously not injured. At this time, he was lying on one of the grounds not far from the center of the explosion. In front of him, a sluggish ghost stone fell on his back, lying beside the naughty Leiden with double eye circles. Behind it, a circular white ground that was obviously not completely affected by the explosion was revealed in front of everyone. Wow! Zoroark's face turned cold. He jumped straight up, and crossed over Nazi's unrevoked psychic barrier, and his scarlet claws were like knives, stabbing straight at Shujing. Zoroark. Baizi frowned suddenly. Swish one by one, Zoroark's movements are stagnant. If he moves forward an inch, the scarlet claws will pierce Shui Jing's eye mask. Come back. Baizi's voice was flat. Zoroark turned his head and met Baizi's irresistible eyes. God. Then he slowly retracted his claws and jumped back to Baizi's side. Let's go. Baizi's voice couldn't hear any anger, so he directly put Zoroark back into the Pokeball, and took Nazi and Joey, who muttered something. Too cheap for this guy. Ilya walked in the direction of Yuhong City. When passing through Shujing, the two look at each other. After discovering the resentment in Shujing's eyes, Baizi's eyes narrowed, and his potential, which had been restrained to the extreme, climbed to the top in an instant, pressing towards Shujing in an instant. The two people crossed each other. After Baizi and his party, Good Li Hao, gradually disappeared on this forest trail. Shui Jingshuang, who was frozen in place, rolled his eyes madly, and then fell straight to the ground. Soon, a masked man carved out of ice slowly walked out of a tree, rolling Shujing's eyelids. After a brief inspection, I couldn't hear the low, deep voices of the man and the woman in the dim twilight. A means of retaliation that makes no one fault at all. And it's also cautious enough. However, did he find me? P.S. Continue, you demons group tilde. Chapter 162. Arriving at Yuhong City, Crisis Sensing. Why did you stop suddenly? On the way, Nazi's telepathy suddenly connected and asked Baizi. Although they have been with each other for a short time, Nazi does not think that the teenagers around her are harmless curly ears. Instead, he is a wolf. There is an old saying in the elf world. From a person's elf, it is enough to see part of that person's nature. And the spirit of Baizi. Whether it's the giant stinger, who has the heart of a warrior, but is decisive in killing it, or the performance of Cerulean, who is even more savage than the giant stinger, in the Golden City Siege event. All of them show the attitude of Baizi's character that can't help but kill. Therefore, Nazi was somewhat puzzled, why Baizi would keep a scum who intends to involve him in the range of skills. According to her idea, even if little Joey is with her, after the big deal is directly destroying the corpse and destroying the traces, she will help make up for a superpower and change the memory of the little girl. Wouldn't it be good? Why use such a troublesome method as chi? Anyway, as long as no one sees that person, it cannot be said that they killed him. Someone. Baizi, who was playing with a crystal black scale in his hand, looked solemn, and replied simply, I feel it. Just now, there was a pair of eyes nearby, staring at 353 me. This. Nazi frowned slightly. Are you sure you're nearby? But my super perception doesn't notice at all. It wasn't that she didn't want to believe what Baizi said. With her super sensed strength, Natsi is confident that as long as it is a living body, even a ghost, type elves who are good at concealment, who have not reached the top of the championship rank, can't hide her super perception. And in the Kanto region, the only trainers who have champion-level ghost-type elves are not necessarily a life form. Baizi's calm voice interrupted Natsi's thoughts. His thumb stroked the lines on the black scales, and after a while, he muttered to himself, maybe, I have some clues. Not a living being. Well, just not quite sure yet. After the words fell, Baizi actively disconnected his spiritual connection. Natsi frowned slightly, but seeing that Baizi didn't want to say more, she didn't ask any more questions. Just to be able to deceive my super perception, even if it is not a living body, it is not something that can be done casually, ACBH. And also, even I concealed it, how did Baizi find out? Could it be that Baizi's super sensing ability has surpassed me unknowingly? But his current superpower level, it should be slightly inferior to me, right? Natsi is confused. But it's true that Baizi didn't discover the peepers by virtue of his super perceptual ability. System, open the properties panel. At this moment, Baizi put away his thoughts, put away the black flash cracking empty seat inverse scale in his hand, walked steadily, and meditated in his heart. Immediately, a light curtain that only he could see appeared in front of Baizi's eyes. Name, Baizi. Ability, Baizi's power of exploration, discrimination between good and evil, soothing the mind, purifying abnormal state, vulnerability insight, crisis sensing, superpower telepathy, instant, moment, psychic shaping. Physical, 2210 spirit, 10-12-10 strength, 24-10 agility, 20-10 note. The values in parentheses are the normal human peak values in the elf world. Skills, cultivation intermediate, 501,000 battle advanced, 885,000 cooking advanced, 372,000 kick master, 1,220 superpower advanced, 1,012 5,000. Items, conch, crackling seat scale, rainbow feather, evil law crystal, fighting law crystal, small blue earrings, evolution stones, or pink diamonds. Warehouse, sigil of awakening, exclusive to wind speed dog. Title, divine bird shelter. Passive, ocean affinity, Lugia's blessing, Suikun's purifying power blessing temporary. Skill proficiency level division, novice, beginner, intermediate, advanced, top, master. Sure enough, is it a sense of crisis? Baizi looked at the new ability derived from the power of Shang Baizi on the personal attribute panel, and a glimpse of clarity flashed in his eyes. It was because he sensed the invisible and intangible threat with a sharp edge on his back, like sitting on pins and needles, that Baizi turned around and left so neatly. To know. Although he doesn't dare to say that he is at the top of the trainer today, but with the Guardian Elf Machado and the champion-level wind speed dog, there is no problem in stepping into the first sequence. But even like this, he felt the sense of horror that was almost invincible in an instant. As you can imagine. How strong is that spied guy? Otherwise, Baizi wouldn't have put the inverse scales used to summon the black flash cracked seat into his hand, the first thing he did. And followed. The sound of the system is long overdue. Your power of Baizi has been independently optimized, and the ability to sense crisis has been derived. There is a little gain. The power of Baizi has increased adaptability, mental stability plus 1%, and reached 1.8%, feeling caught by the coolness and warmth that emerged from the pupils. Baizi blinked slightly and got used to it. Then, with a thought, close the personal panel. The curtain of light that no one could see immediately dissipated. Several people moved on. As the so-called Wangshan ran dead horses, it seemed that Yuhong City, which was in front of them, took them half an hour to arrive at this city with the title of Fragrant City when the sky was getting dark. Entering Yuhong City, Baizi stopped slightly and clicked on the elf bracelet in his hand. After the last operation above the flickering virtual light curtain, he waved away the virtual city map that rose above the watch. I have already made a reservation for the hotel. I will go to the elf center first, then rest at the hotel for a night. I will challenge Yuhong Taoist Hall tomorrow. Baizi glanced at Joey, who was holding hands with Gili Egg, looking around like a curious baby, and whispering. Elijah, decided. Good. Natsi is the leader of Baizima, and Joey. Ilya has no say at all, and the schedule is naturally set like this. P.S. Continue, you demons group tilde. Chapter 163. Chao Yichun, the change of the night tilde please order. Yuhong City, Spirit Center. Little Elijah. As soon as she entered the elf center, Miss Joy, who was standing behind the counter with a smile, immediately covered her mouth in silence. Then she trotted from the counter to Joey. In front of Ilya, Slender Jade nodded on the other side's forehead, and said with a strange face, You little troublemaker, where did you run to make trouble this time? You haven't been with us for several days. Contact. Hey tilde. Joey. Ilya scratched the back of her head, trying to make a fool of herself. Sister Chun tilde, it's no use acting like a spoiled child. Chao Yichun stretched out his hand and pinched the little guy's nose again, but his expression softened a lot, obviously not as annoyed as before. This little guy's parents were both rare prosecutors in the Joey family, and she died in an exploration accident when she was 3 years old. Since she was a child, she and the two sisters Lien took care of them together. Therefore, even though she knew that this little guy had power unmatched by most trainers, but without any news for several days, she still felt a little worried. But fortunately, I finally returned safely. That's right. Seems to be remembering something, Joey. Ilya quickly broke away from Joey Chun's leaning arms and introduced, Sister Chun, they are. This guy is the trainer of Fufu that I met when I lost my way, next to the trainer. It's his companion Natsi. That's right, and Fufu. Sister Chun, I brought Fufu back. After vaguely introducing Baizi and two people, Joey. Ilya took Gili Egg's little shorthand, her eyes were full of stars, and she raised her hand in high spirits. Lucky tilde. The auspicious egg was pulled forward, squinting his eyes happily, with a moist expression on his face. It and Joey, like Ilya, she was photographed by the sisters Joey Chun and Joey Lien since childhood, and they were naturally close. Hello, Fufu. Chao Yichun squatted down and hugged Gili Egg, stroking the pink tentacle hair on the side of Gili Egg's head with a doting expression. Come over for a while. She just let go of the auspicious egg, looked apologetic, got up and said, I'm sorry, Baizi, the owner of Natsi, I'm sorry, welcome to Yuhong City. The temperament in his bones was immediately evident. Even with Baizi's concentration, he was stunned for a moment. Where? Baizi shook his head with a chuckle, and couldn't help but sigh. No wonder Miss Joy is the dream lover of countless young trainers. This charm is indeed amazing. Miss Joy knows me, and, Fufu. He had no opinion on the nickname of Gili Egg, so he simply followed the local customs. Of course. Chao Yichun covered her mouth and chuckled, pulled the broken hair around her ear, and joked, Lien and I are twin sisters, didn't you realize that we look alike? Baizi, similar. Do you Joey have that one that doesn't look alike? I complained in my heart, but on the surface, Baizi didn't show any strangeness at all, relying on his absolute memory ability. After careful observation and comparison, he answered with a raised corner of his mouth, It is indeed very similar, although I have not seen many Miss Joy, but they can be so similar, almost identical twins, it is still the only thing I have ever seen in my life. If I observe it well, Miss Joy's eyes are a little darker than yours. Miss Joy, I said, it should be right. Sigma. Joey Junichi, stunned expression on his face. As the Joey family, they naturally have special means of separation. However, as Chao Yichun herself said, she and her twin sister Chao Yilian are rare imaginations even in the Chao Yi family. Like the distance between the eyebrows and the eyes, the height of the bridge of the nose, and even the number of eyelashes, the two are the same. It's almost as if it was copied. The only slight difference is the slight difference in pupil color. To know. This is a lot of sisters in the clan, and even the elders can hardly tell the difference when they know this. Didn't you know it from Lien? Joey Chun was still a little unbelievable. Bai Zi lightly smiled and shrugged, without explaining anything. Chao Yi Chun's cheeks bulged, and finally sighed, some childishly said, "Okay, you win tilde, oh, yes." As if remembering something, Chao Yi Chun stretched out a slender finger and said slyly, "Since you have come to my place, then this is the first time you have returned to the door, why don't you leave the auspicious eggs to me? How about I have one night? Lucky tilde." When Gili Egg heard the words, his eyes lit up, and he also cast his expectant eyes on Bai Zi. 0. Ask for flowers. Speaking, it also has some friends whom it is reluctant to see for a long time, as well as Joey Chun. Before going far away, it would be great to be able to accompany them for one night. Bai Zi smiled slightly and lightly nodded his forehead. Of course there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, after the Yuhong Gymnasium, I should continue to stay in Yuhong City for a few days. Lucky tilde. Gili Egg happily twisted and rolled around, came to Bai Zi's side, and rubbed his left leg around Bai Zi intimately. Bai Zi, you really are a good man who is considerate and considerate. Joey's pure eyes flowed, looking at Bai Zi Juni's face, a flash of brilliance flashed. I do need to stay in Yuhong City for a few days. Bai Zi rubbed the top of Gili Egg's soft head and chuckled. Although there are many reasons for auspicious eggs, he also needs to rest and deal with the wind speed dogs, stand of awakening mark, and the crystals of the two laws. Night. The kindness was hard to resist. In the end, Bai Zi left the hotel and stayed in the VIP suite specially provided by Chao Yi Chun. The second floor of the Ferry Center. In the suite, swish, Bai Zi pulled open the curtains of the floor-to-ceiling window and moved a chair to lie down on the open-air balcony outside the floor-to-ceiling window. It was still early, and he was not in a hurry to go to bed early, so he lay quietly on the armchair, looking at the extraordinarily bright moonlight tonight, and fell into contemplation. Speaking of, come on. It's almost time for the iron dumbbells to start formal training. And, buzz, along with the roar of the car's motor, Bai Zi suddenly saw a familiar lavender in the corner of his eyes. Subconsciously looked back. The pair of violet-like cowardly eyes that happened to meet immediately burst into the brilliance of hope. Through the car window, the familiar petite figure reluctantly compared his tender little hand with a chicken claw-like gesture, placed it on his forehead, as if passing something, and suddenly drew it in the direction of Bai Zi. P.S. Calamity Beast, Absolute tilde a few. Chapter 164. Absol, Hassan Moore. For full order. Bai Zi suddenly sat up straight, and stared at the moving vehicle with furrowed brows. That one just now, was that little girl from the Rampart Hotel. And that one, a movement, action and an eye, look. While thinking, whoosh, a slender figure with white hair and a unicorn-like scythe on the right side of its forehead. It was also in the direction of the vehicle, passing through Bai Zi's eyes without making a sound. If it weren't for Bai Zi's amazing eyesight, plus the conspicuous white fur under the moonlight, I'm afraid that Bai Zi might not be able to spot it. Is it Absol? Bai Zi recognized that, the elf only known as the Disaster Beast. As a rare moderate among the evil elves, Absol will use the horn on his head to predict disasters and show up to convey information about disasters and crises to people. However, because of people's ignorance and 353 superstition in the past, a spirit full of justice like Absol was not recognized by people. On the contrary, it was considered that it would bring disaster and was hated and driven out. Arrived in the middle of the mountains. But even so, when disaster strikes again, Absol will still take the initiative to show up to wake up the world. Open black lens bracket race. Absolute close black lens bracket. Attribute: evil. Characteristics: sense of oppression, heart of justice, Monty. Level: Quasi-Tianwang Intermediate, level 55, 85 100ths. Potential: King of Heaven. HP: 65, Attack 130, Defense, 60, Special Attack, 75, Special Defense, 60, Speed, 75. Skills: Lightning Flash, Stare, Shadow Clone, Street Test, Shoot Down, See-Through, Provocation, Split, Gather Energy, Raid, Sword Dance, Predict the Future, Death Song. Genetic skill: Black Eyes. Status: Poor, Tired. Introduction: He used to be one of the elf overlords on the outskirts of the Chunghua forest in Fangyuan. He has a very keen sense of danger and aura, and is agile in action. He is an expert in stealth. Are you a wild elf? Besides, this is still an elf overlord from Fangyuan. The light in his eyes stopped for a while, and Baizi's eyebrows raised unconsciously. The Fangyuan area is located in the southwest of the Chengdu area, and is separated from the Kanto area by a sponge extension. It is another large continental area. Interesting. The elf overlord from the Fangyuan place traveled thousands of miles to the Kanto land, and, even though his state was not very good, he tracked a vehicle driving on the wild streets. No matter how you look at it, it all shows that there must be hidden secrets. However, now is not the time to think about that. Huo pushed the chairs away one by one, and Baizi got up immediately and took out a luxury ball from his waist. Red light flies. And he himself also pressed the balcony and simply turned down. People are in the air. That red light has transformed into a four-legged canine, which is the wind's speed dog. Immediately afterwards, Baizi, who fell from the air, also jumped from the wind speed dog, straddled firmly on its thick broad back. Feng speed dog, go after that black car, followed by a Absol. Wu tilde. A low, deep whimper sound started. Then, a stream of orange-red shadows flashed under the moonlight. At the same time, in a presidential suite of the Yuhong City Hotel, Mia stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window that had been cut open, holding the delicate letter in her hand tightly. There was no blood on her beautiful face. Dear Mia, Miss Moore. Miss Lily is now in our hands. If you don't want your lovely daughter to have an accident, then I hope you can contact your biological father, Mr. Hassan, and let him call XXXXXXXXXXXX to come and talk to us. Close black lens bracket. Remember, don't call the police. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket, otherwise, we cannot guarantee that Miss Lily will be intact. Close black lens bracket, Lily. The young woman with short, capable hair bit her lower lip, hesitated for a while, and finally gave up her plan to call the police. He took out the communicator and dialed the number in his mind that he had remembered many times but had never called. She doesn't bet. What's going to happen to Lily? She's going crazy. Beep. Click. Although it was late at night, the call was quickly connected. Mia opened her mouth slightly, and when she really wanted to say something, a tired but obviously excited old vibrato came from the other end of the phone. Woman, daughter, are you finally willing to call me? I'm so happy. You and Lily are okay. Lily was kidnapped. Mia's voice was cold, because of you. On the other hand, as the world's largest shipping company, Hassan, the former chairman of Moore Group, now renamed Lily Group. Moore, standing there like a sculpture at this moment. A daughter who refuses to recognize her finally takes the initiative to call. But not so happy. But brought him such a thunderbolt news. Or because of yourself. Hassan, Moore subconsciously wanted to defend the matter. However, as the chairman of one of the largest corporations in the world, there is no shortage of temperament and wisdom. His granddaughter Lily, whom he has not yet successfully recognized, is just an ordinary little girl. The only thing that made her no longer ordinary. It's your own identity. Chairman of the world-class group, Hassan. The identity of Moore's granddaughter. They came after me. Hassan. A flash of red light flashed in Moore's eyes, resisting the guilt and anger, and said to Mia on the other end of the phone as calmly as possible, "Mia, now tell me the whole story. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to Lily." Moment. Hassan after listening to Mia's narration. Moore hangs up. He looked at the series of numbers on the paper, resisting the urge to dial it right away. Walk quickly to the wall. Roughly ripped off a dark frame, and slapped the red button in the dark frame with a slap. Flying shark, immediately summon all the armed forces of the group, and let the people from the Security Response 1.7 emergency team come and pick me up immediately. Quote. Yes, sir. A crisp answer came from the dark cell. Hassan. Moore retracted his hand, put on a coat at will, and reached out to a built-in elevator in the room. Ding dong, the elevator suddenly opened. And Hassan. Moore stepped in and dialed the communicator number in his hand. Without the slightest busy tone, the call was directly connected. Hello, Ha. Don't talk nonsense, just tell me what you want, what you want. Chapter 165, Little Mouse, I Caught You. For full order. Kanto, Yuhong City. Darkness shrouded the whole land, and under the moonlight, a car drove away from the city center at a high speed and drove into an abandoned underground parking garage on the outskirts of the city. Squeak. After passing through layers of light and dark levels, the vehicle stopped only after driving to the underground 3 floors of the parking garage. Immediately afterwards, a sturdy man in an ordinary blue worker's uniform pushed the door and came out. Afterwards, a blue ecstasy eye with a short stature and jewel-like eyes jumped down from the shadow above his head and crouched on the roof of the car. Head down, through the glass of the car window. Turning her eyes that could not be seen clearly to Lily in the back seat of the car, the corners of her mouth opened wide, revealing sharp razor-like teeth. 0000 tilde. The little family shivered all of a sudden, but they held back their fear, shrank their bodies, and bravely stared back at this ecstasy with misty eyes. Although he was trembling all over, he didn't show any signs of flinching. The ecstasy's eyes suddenly became interested, and the surging, like evil factors rose like smoke, and a strong malice was about to oppress Lily O2 in the car. Enough. A hoarse, air-leaking sound like someone strangled the throat suddenly sounded. The movement of the soul-sucking eye suddenly stagnates. The smoke slowly dissipated. And the ecstasy eye immediately turned over, jumped straight from the roof, and landed next to the sofa in the center of the open space. Reigning in his fierceness, he rubbed the trouser legs of the man sitting on the sofa, like a cat. How did the old man agree? Mark. The hoarse voice sounded again, and under the dim light, a thin man with long black and white hair slowly raised his head, revealing his unusual appearance. It was an extremely pale face, with slender eyes like foxes, scarlet pupils and lips as if stained with blood. Just like a vampire from a horror movie. Or the one that is extremely malnourished. And on his slender neck and throat, there is a scar that can be fatal. On the chest of his silver-gray uniform. A reversed S character similar to the number 2, printed on it. Reverse S. This is the symbol of the underground organization, Silver Club, which was prosperous in those days and whose main activities were in the Chengdu area, but was later destroyed and annexed by the rockets. And this thin man with long black and white hair who looks like a vampire is the last leader of the Silver Society who was wiped out back then, and is known as a ghost, Charles. Charles Chief, Hassan Moore said, as long as we can guarantee the safety of his granddaughter, in addition to the 2 billion Union coin amount we asked for, he is willing to pay 3 billion more after we hand it over. And the money will be paid immediately. It will be transferred to the account we requested in batches. Mark, the sturdy uniformed man, replied respectfully. Oh, you're so sensible. Charles, sullen eyes flashed over Lily in the car, and a smile appeared on his face. He turned his head and gestured with his eyes to a few members of the Silver Club who were sitting in front of their laptops. Several people immediately understood. Cracklingly manipulated, up. Soon. Boss Charles, the account on my side has already started to receive transfers one after another. Me too. And on my side, I have already started to receive payments of varying amounts. Several members of the Silver Club said one after another. Very good. A flush rose on Charles's face, and he tried his best to suppress the excitement in his heart, and asked, "How much have you got now? How long does it take to transfer the money successfully?" The chubby-eyed member made a quick operation, and then immediately replied, "Boss Charles, now in more than 130 million in hand. It is estimated that in another 20 to 30 minutes, you will be able to get all the money, or within an hour, you can transfer all of them successfully." Very good. Ha ha ha. Charles couldn't bear the emotion anymore. He got up and walked around in the middle of the room. The crisp sound of da 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 kept coming. Until this time. Only then can it be seen clearly that Charles's legs below the knees are all assisted walking prostheses. The semi-metal material and simple shape are obviously not high-end goods, but the most common walking aid on the market. This shows that the Silver Society, the largest underground organization in the Chengdu, Dudu area at the time, is now in a state of embarrassment. Good, good, good. With the injection of this capital, our silver will usher in resurrection. When the time comes. Speaking of this, Charles's originally excited expression gradually turned into a ferocious one, almost as if a substantive low pressure appeared around him. When the time comes, Team Rocket. Sakagi. Destroy the revenge of killing people, I will definitely repay you well. Definitely. Haha 370 haha, ha 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 ha. It's so stupid to attack the major cities of the League. Sakagi, you are all so dizzy. This time, the rockets have to be ripped off by the League. And such a godsend opportunity. Exactly, my silver will launch revenge and re-emerge. Charles roared wildly, and under his feet, a ghost image gradually spread as he kept walking. Until. When it spread to the side of the car where Lily was. "Mark, you were too careless." The faint hoarse voice suddenly turned calm, and Charles turned his head abruptly to look at the entrance of the garage on the third floor of the basement, with a ferocious smile raised at the corner of his mouth. "Little mouse, I caught you." Next second. A pitch-black ghost rose from the ground, turned into a ray of dark electric light, climbed over the roof of the car, and with a sly smile, headed towards the white silhouette I didn't know when it was approaching, and went straight to kill it. Hidden Spirit Assault. P.S. Dream Demon Tilda. Chapter 166. Strange Phenomenon. Please complete order. Under the dim light, a round dark purple shadow with a sinister and terrifying smile suddenly revealed its figure. The short hands, feet and tail look a little funny. At the back. It is a thorn-like protrusion like a thorn. The scarlet eyes, the raised corners of the mouth and the white teeth all reveal the identity of the other party. It is known as the First Generation, Ghost King, the Ghost Poison Dual-Type Elf. Gengar. At this moment, in a dark billowing thick fog, Gengar's figure in midair suddenly disappeared, and the next second, a circle of dark corridors appeared there just behind the white figure next to the car. Straight at the Geng ghost who had drilled out, he hooked it towards the throat of the white figure. It was faintly purple, with a corrosive aura. Poison attack. At this juncture. Swish. Poochie. Although the white figure avoided the key point of the throat dangerously, the difference in level and exhaustion also prevented it from completely avoiding the blow. The sound of the sharp weapon into the meat, the sound together. Jumping up, the white figure that fell to the side was no longer covered by the car. Finally, he showed his stature in the eyes of the members of the Silver Club. And on its back. From the shoulders and neck to the lower back, 3 deep visible bone wounds spread side by side over almost the entire back. The wound glowed purple. And the dripping blood almost dyed its nearly half, body red. It's poisoned. And, hit hard. It turned out to be an Absol. Charles blinked and saw that his left eye, which was no different from ordinary people, suddenly shrunk, layered upon layers, and flashed with an electronic luster. This is an electronic eye. Wild elves. Interesting. The corner of Charles' mouth raised a smirk, and his hoarse voice suddenly fell in a low voice. Eyes the soul, split the tiles. He tilde. A strange swindling laughter sounded, and in the next second, the ecstasy eyes that had already reached Absolute's body jumped into the air, and the white-lighted palm slashed straight down like a knife and axe. Absolute had to retreat immediately. But the ecstasy eye in the midair suddenly swept his gaze towards it not far behind, Lily in the car. The threatening smirk on his face was very obvious. Hem. Absolute clenched his teeth, and there was a low growl from his throat. 4 feet on the ground. The scythe-like horn on the top of the head suddenly burst into light, and attacked the claw that was slashed by the eye of the soul. Super horn versus tile split. Bang, one by one dull crashing sounds rang out in this empty underground space. After a brief stalemate. He tilde. The soul-hunting eye jumped up and quickly flipped down in midair. With a heavy kick, it swept the face of Absol, and kicked it directly to the wall at the end of the underground space. Deep, deep inlaid in it. After a while, it fell to the ground from the wall. Completely lost the ability to fight. Big dog. Lily, who was sitting in the car, seemed to recognize this Absol, and she was about to open the car door in a hurry. Bang, the soul-hunting eye slid on the door, and suddenly, an obvious dent appeared on the door. Lily was also frightened to the point of trembling, and she looked at the eyes of the soul with tears in her eyes. The little fist clenched tightly. Eyes full of fear. But he still stubbornly stared at the eyes of the soul-eating eyes, unwilling to bow his head. He tilde. And the eyes of the soul seemed to enjoy the fear of others. After touching Lily's eyes, the corners of the mouth immediately rose, like a throat-wiping action. The surging malice suddenly rushed to the face. This surging malice made Lily's little face turn white, and the panic in her heart could no longer be suppressed. Tears flowed from the corners of her eyes, her lips pursed tightly, and she choked up in a low voice. Actually, if it weren't for the existence of some kind of dependency in her heart, she would have been unable to persist. Okay. Charles stopped in time. After all, this is the present day of their silver club, and it may be the money bag in the future, but nothing can really happen to her. Koji emoji tilde. At this time, Gengar also dragged one of the half-conscious Absolute's hind legs and walked towards Charles. Above the ground, bright red blood lines were drawn. Witnessing such a tragic scene caused a great shock to Lily's young heart. Breathing, suddenly hurried up. A feeling of tightness in the chest like suffocation suddenly came, and Lily's consciousness gradually became blurred, and her vision also blurred. That is at this time. Don't be afraid tilde. With a soft soothing sound, Lily felt a large pair of gentle hands embrace her. Immediately afterwards, an incomparably warm current spread from both palms to the whole body. Breath, suddenly calmed down. Leaning in the warm embrace, Lily raised her head slightly. In his eyes, silver-white broken hair, dazzling cloudy blue eyes, small round sunglasses, and a gentle and familiar face, Pang, were instantly imprinted into the pupils. His eyes suddenly lit up with a slow brilliance. Big brother. On the other side, it seemed that nothing was out of the ordinary. Charles calmly looked at Absol, who was dragged by Gengar, with admiration, being able to withstand the blow of the ecstasy in a state of injury, even if it is not full strength, but as a wild elf, come on, you do have great potential. How about you, would you like to follow me? Before he finished speaking, Charles, who swept in the direction of the car from the corner of his eye, suddenly condensed, and the electronic sound in his pupils shrank violently a few times. Suddenly stepped towards the car, opened the door, stretched out his hand, and grabbed Lily inside. Very suddenly. Lily Wei was stunned and didn't react. In the same way, Charles suddenly grabbed the air and put his hand on it, and there was no touch that should have existed. Boss, you are good Jows. Mark on the side hadn't reacted for a while, and said with some doubts. Charles ignored him. Out of the corner of his eyes, he looked towards the members of the Silver Club. The air is quiet. Except for the abnormally uniform rhythm of the keyboard tapping, the members of the Silver Club, one by one, did not even make a sound of breathing and breathing. Zhang Gishan. Charles looked extremely gloomy, and immediately shouted loudly, "Use the black mist." Ko Jia tilde. Zhang Gui smiled grimly, his round body bulging like a balloon. Next second, the dark mist spewed out from its mouth, and it didn't take a moment to spread to the audience. P.S. Snow Maiden tilde. Chapter 167. By Z, then guess why. Please complete the order. The black fog spread and soon covered the entire underground space. Well, what's going on here? At this time, the tough young man named Mark finally realized that something was wrong. Under such a dark fog, the expressions of his colleagues did not change in the slightest. One by one, like puppets, those who were on guard continued to stand guard, and those who operated the computer were still operating the computer. It seems that all changes in the outside world cannot affect them. Such performance. Let Mark only feel a hair in his heart. Come out, come on, Heluga. Panicked, he could only feel a little at ease by releasing the elf. However, this Heruga, known as the Hound of Hell, was not fierce at all, but looked rather dejected. And on its neck, even more tightly around a metal collar that is constantly shining red. And just when Mark released this black lugar, Ko Jia tilde. On the other side, Zhang Ghost had already passed through the black mist gap to the strangeness in the underground space. Without Charles's instructions, he even squeezed out a shadow ball and smashed it towards an empty space. Chirulian, stop, 370 Chiru tilde. Buzz followed by a strange sound, and an invisible barrier suddenly appeared, facing the attacking shadow ball. Go. Immediately, boom one by one is accompanied by a violent explosion, because of the energy reaction. There was a lot of fog all around. And with a burst of invisible hot wind blowing, the smoke, and even the black mist that Gengar spewed out, were quickly blown away. The shadowy figure suddenly appeared. Really alert, the silver-haired boy with sunglasses walked out with the smoke, his face innocent. "I originally wanted you to leave in peace." And behind the boy, a petite, bewitching, or handsome figure also followed, standing in front of Charles. "Your special size." The young man named Mark saw this, and his face suddenly became hideous. He pulled out an honest live ammunition firearm from the back waist, and as soon as he pulled the barrel, the went to lift. But it was pressed down by Charles next to him. "Chief." Charles didn't answer, just glanced at his subordinates. Mark was suddenly startled and looked around. "I see." The members of the Silver Society who were supposed to surround them all collapsed to the ground silently. Including the members who operate the computer, they all lay on the desktop in front of the computer as if they were asleep. Mark squatted slightly. He put his finger on the neck of a member of the Silver Club who was soft to the ground. There was no pulse at all. Or, the soft touch feels like it has no bones. Mark suddenly retracted his palm. Pupil. Suddenly shrank. When Charles next to him saw this, he didn't need to explain it. He had already expected this, and his expression also sank. "Boy, who are you?" This question. Baizi's eyes swept over the Zheng Gui, Soul Evil Eye, and Heluga in the field, and then he slowly raised his head and said with a chuckle, "Actually, whether you know or don't know, it doesn't make any sense anymore." Now, between the words, a series of data panels also appeared in Baizi's eyes in turn. Race, Gengar. Attribute, Ghost Poison. Characteristic, Cursed Body. Level, Heavenly King Intermediate, Level 54, 4100ths. Potential, King of Heaven. Status, Extremely Poor, Hurting the Origin. Introduction. The source was injured by the insect-type factor that could touch the quasi-god field, and the strength dropped sharply. It took countless treasures of heaven and earth to barely stabilize the level of the middle-level King of Heaven. Insect factor, it will be difficult to advance again. Open black lens bracket race, evil eye close black lens bracket. Attribute, evil ghost. Characteristic, sharp eye. Level, quasi ACBH, heavenly king peak, peak level 59, 75 100ths, falling continuously. Potential, king of heaven. Open black lens bracket, close black lens bracket. Status, extremely poor, hurting the origin. Introduction, being bombarded by the ground-based tricks of the profound meaning level one after another, injuring the source, barely saving one's life, the strength falls to the rank of heavenly king, and if you don't spend enough time every day to absorb the evil factor, the strength will continue to fall. Open black lens bracket race, black ruga close black lens bracket. Attribute, evil fire. Characteristic, fire. Level, quasi Tianwang intermediate, level 55, 51 hundredths. Potential, quasi king. Open black lens bracket, close black lens bracket. Status, poor, slightly injured. Introduction, he used to be the elf overlord of the Darubi family, a small elf group commanded by the middle of the Silver Mountains, with a strong sense of responsibility and family. Baizi squinted slightly. The information he got from the data of Gengar and Evil Eye, combined with what he had heard before, related to the cause of the demise of the Silver Society. It's not hard to guess who's the culprit in all of this. After all, the combination of the 3 points of Team Rocket, the insect-type factor of the God domain, and the ground-type trick of the profound meaning level, in Baizi's eyes, is almost equivalent to clearly pointing to a man. The current leader of Team Rocket. Sakagi of the Earth. However, this Black Ruga. It doesn't make any sense. Charles's eyes narrowed slightly, and he glanced at the computer screen that was still running not far away, with a smile on his face. Young man, don't you think that you will kill me with some small tricks? Cherulean, the wind speed dog, and just now, everything should be the ability of the Zoroark by your side. The Phantom Tyrants are indeed very good elves. But elf battles aren't about rarity. Young man, are you sure you have made the decision to fight our Silver Club to the death? The words fell, and a bloody and tragic momentum emerged from Charles's body. This momentum is a little vain. But no doubt. Enough to show his power. After a moment, the momentum dissipated. How? Let's each take a step back. You take this little girl and I don't care about your affairs today. How about we won't break the river from now on? Baizi suddenly laughed. He winked at Charles, and the raised corners of his mouth were very obvious. Having said so much, you should be ready, right? Charles's complexion changed, and Baizi continued to chuckle and said, then guess, why did I know this and listen to you? Charles. P.S. Wind Speed Dog Tilda. Chapter 168, Uncle Lou's Messenger Bird. Massacre. For full order. Not good. Jengui, hurry up. Charles's complexion suddenly changed, and he responded immediately. But a pity. He hasn't finished speaking yet. Snapped. Wu tilde. With a crisp finger snap, Shenjun's wind speed dog slightly twitched the tip of his nose, and in the not-so-bright light glow, he quickly sniffed out the opponent's scent and detected the location of the sneaking opponent tilde location. Afterwards, he rushed forward suddenly, the canine teeth filled with pitch, black mist staggered, the dog's head swayed, and suddenly bite down in the void not far from Baizi. Bite. PFF'd, in an instant, a round purple ghost was suddenly torn out of the air. This is obviously a Gengar. And with the appearance of this Gengar, the figure of the Gengar that was suspended above Charles's head suddenly became illusory and disappeared. Kojia tilde. The canine teeth full of evil factors penetrated deep into the body, and the fatal sense of crisis and pain caused this Gengar to struggle violently. But the huge gap in strength, and Tionki's evil energy, fixed it firmly in place, and it was difficult to break free. You bastard. Charles's face changed suddenly. Even if the attributes were incompatible, he was able to catch his own Gengar so easily, and make him unable to break free at all. Even the ghost-type energy factor in one body seems to be completely suppressed and sealed. Such strength. Championship. Charles, pupils tightened. You're only a teenager, so where did this little monster come from? Mark next to him also endured. No, swallowed. Mouth, water. His throat rolled, and a wisp of cold sweat slid down his temples. Championship level. This is an existence that cannot be underestimated even in the heyday of the Silver Club, let alone now. Huh. Charles took a deep breath and glanced at Gengar, who was unable to break free from the wind speed dog. Clenched fists. He tried his best to calm down his expression and said, "Little my friend, there's no need to do things like this, isn't it? Although you have the upper hand now, I think you shouldn't want to offend a elf leader, right? You're young, and you obviously have a better future. I'm still saying that. The enemy should be resolved but not knotted. You take that little girl with you, and we won't break the river water from now on, how about that? But shouldn't the best solution be to let one side of the feud disappear altogether?" Under the sunglasses, Baizi's eyes were dark. However, as if remembering something, he pulled down his sunglasses slightly, and looked inexplicably at the man facing the enemy, Master of the Elf. "Are you sure you are awake? I know what to say. The vernacular is hard to believe, but what I say is true. That guy with an ice mask is really strong. Too strong." Saying that, Charles endured a shudder, and his expression was still unbelievable. The messenger bird he used, with just one blow, directly froze the entire barren plain. A barren plain. Baizi closed his eyes slightly. In the body, inside, Baizeji's power of crisis-sensing ability was operated to the extreme by him. Even if it's just a few words. But the ice mask, the messenger bird, are enough to make Baizi think of a bug-level trainer in the Pokemon worldview. The little boar suppresses Dialga, the messenger bird takes Ho-Oh and Lugia. Lubo. A top trainer who intends to reverse time. Judging from the record of the special chapter, the head of the elves can be said to be fully deserved. However, this is a real world after all. In fact, Baizi didn't have a very clear concept of how strong Lubo was. But now Charles's words have given him a little enlightenment. Barren Plains. This is a small peninsula plain located on the southwest coast of the Chengdu area, isolated due to the leakage of the experiment, with a total area of nearly 50 square kilometers. 50 square kilometers. That's almost equivalent to 10,000 football fields. And Lubo's messenger bird completely freezes it with just one blow. This is not necessarily the full force of the opponent. Moment. Baizi opened his eyes and looked at Charles with a slight sigh. "Masquerade man, I really don't want to provoke such a troublesome guy." Then, Charles's eyes lit up. "Then for the sake of safety, I can't let you go." Baizi put his arms around Lily, who had already fallen asleep under the exhaustion, turned around and walked towards the entrance and exit. 0. Ask for flowers. Then, an indifferent order came out. "The wind speed dog, bite it." Woo tilde. The wind speed dog made a dull whimper, and a strong evil factor suddenly rose from the mouth. Mouth Gia Gia, PFF'd, accompanied by Zheng Gui's shrill screams. The wind speed dog suddenly closed his long kiss, like a balloon, and bit it directly. Your wind speed dog killed Charles's Gengar, slightly gained, battle experience +1, wind speed dog experience value +1, smell detection skill, skill +1, bite skill, skill +1, bite proficiency, proficiency +1, you bastard. Charles's eyes were split, and he grabbed Mark's hand. The gun was about to point at Baizi, who had his back turned to him. Chiru tilde. An indifferent groan sounded. Subsequently, Kacha Kacha. Under the dim light, the shadow of Charles's arm suddenly folded upwards, followed by the legs, body, neck. He tilde. The ecstasy's eyes trembled slightly, and it didn't even think about it. It ran directly from the bottom of the car with the idea of revenge for its owner. But just got out of the car, and before he had time to continue to escape, when he looked up, he saw a strange fox face. And The scarlet energy long knives slashed straight down, like hot knives cutting butter, leaving a bloodline in the center of the body that was stunned by the eyes of the soul. Street test. Stepping on one by one, Zoroark jumped back, lightly avoiding the splashing blood. The surging evil energy gathers in the claws, removing the stench from it. That's right. And Baizi, who was walking to the entrance and exit, suddenly stopped, and in the radiant eyes of Mark, who was pulled into the air by Cerulean's thought force, he urged, "Remember to save that, only Heluga's life, abo bring Solu and the rest of the Pokeball. Also, remember to clean up, whines Speed Dog." The sound fades away. With the crisp sound of bones breaking one by one, Cerulean's lightly raised plain hand suddenly clenched. Several. Chapter 169. This. A scumbag. Please complete the order. Underground garage, 2nd floor. Beer tilde. As soon as Baizi appeared, a silhouette with a shimmering light flashed from the darkness. Metal skin. The sharp and dangerous needle arm is the giant needle bee. Tick, tick, the sound of water drops hitting the ground echoed in the empty room. The scarlet blood fell on the ground drop by drop along the hanging needle arm. In no time, a small puddle of blood gathered. Baizi glanced at the big needlebee that flew to his side through the dim light of the entrance and exit, and immediately laughed and scolded. "Go and go, the blood is not too dirty, clean it up and come to me." Big Needlebee smelled Yan lowered his head slightly. Next second, a layer of splendid purple energy armor spreads from its needle arm to the whole body. After 370, click, 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 dissipated in the successive crisp sounds, and took away the bloodstains on the outside of the large needlebee's body that were opened by the emerging energy armor. Seeing this, Baizi was stunned for a moment, and when he saw the gaze of the giant needlebee, he couldn't help but laugh. Cough. Have you used your gauntlet skills so well? Amazing. Saying that, Baizi gave a thumbs up to the giant needlebee with a look of admiration. The big needlebee had an extremely flat expression, as if he didn't care about it at all, but after nodding lightly, his wings shook, crossed Baizi, and flew towards the first floor of the entrance and exit. This guy. Baizi lightly smiled and shook his head, then followed. Come to the ground warehouse on the first floor and stop. Soon. There was a slight tremor on the ground. After a while, Zoroark, Wind Speed Dog, and Cerulean with several red and white balls suspended by their sides walked out in order. The bright moon hangs high. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, in a wood not very far from the center of the elf, after Baizi had detoxified Absolu and applied the wound medicine. After Cerulean's translation and Lily's confirmation, Baizi probably figured out the reason for Absol and Haruga. Let's talk about Absol. The reason why it has followed from Fangyuan to the Kanto region is to repay its kindness. A year ago, Lily happened to meet Absol, who was seriously injured and unable to forage and almost died of starvation in the outskirts of the Orange Forest. The little guy is kind-hearted, and he doesn't care about Absol's notoriety as a disaster beast. Even if it is found that it is unwilling to go to the human world for treatment. But he still rushed to the forest every day to bring it food. For the first time in his life, Absol, who has always been hated by people, feels that he is treated with kindness. An evil spirit that is easily misunderstood and not popular with the general public. Coupled with the disaster beast notoriety. If Absol wasn't yelled at by everyone, it wouldn't be much better there. But at that moment, Absol felt the tenderness and kindness that really belonged to him and was completely released for himself. Dry souls seem to be purified. It's like finding a real home. Soon, relying on Lily's feeding and care, Absol survived with his quasi-king level powerful physique. That is, from that day on, it identified Lily in its heart. And after they parted, they hid in the dark, all the way from Fangyuan to Kanto, guarding Lily's safety. And why not show up to follow? I just don't want to affect Lily because of my reputation as a disaster beast. It turns out that the big dog is the only one protecting Lily. Lily's eyes were shining brightly, she broke away from Baizi's embrace, threw herself on Absolu's body, and said in a muffled voice, "Thank you, big dog." Woo. This time, it obviously affected Absol's injury. However, it only twitched the corner of its mouth slightly, then propped up slightly with a gentle face, stretched its head around Lily's neck, embraced the other's small figure as if in its arms, and let out a low whimper. The movements are gentle and careful, like a figure in his arms, a peerless treasure. Haruga glanced in the direction of Absol and Lily. There was a glimmer of admiration in his eyes. Compared to Absol, he had almost the same experience with him, but he didn't meet a trainer who could really treat him. The man named Mark, after discovering that he had been seriously injured and dying in order to cover the group, immediately put an electric shock collar on it. Immediately after. It is brutal forced domestication. Original. As the arrogance of the overlord of the group, even if it dies, it will never succumb to such a trainer. But it knew that one day, it found the corpse of the nearly half-eaten Darubi. Hilugia recognized it immediately, that is, the corpse of its clan. Violent, anger, crazy. But still cannot get rid of the control of this circle. In the end, it had to live on the sidelines and send it to be able to get rid of the bondage one day and return to the group again. Suck tilde. The sobbing sounded again. Lily let go of Absol, and in Heluga's somewhat bewildered expression, he hugged him with a golden face. The big dog number 2 is so pitiful. Don't cry, don't cry. Cry, be strong, mother said, being strong is a good boy. Hilugia was not used to trying to break free, but after feeling the wetness of his neck. When he turned around, he met Lily's clear eyes. Hilugia stared blankly at Lily's eyes, and his body froze. Elves are very sensitive creatures, and they are far more sensitive than humans. So they will be willing to fight everything for the people they love, and even burst out with incredible power. This is the bond between humans and elves that has been passed down since ancient times. Haruga felt the same at this time. I felt the pure heart and sincere heart from this little girl who met for the first time in front of me. Its eyes softened unconsciously. On the side, looking at Absol, who subconsciously tensed his whole body, with an expression of his beloved being taken away, Baizi's expression was a little weird. Ah, this. Why do I feel that your rank is a little high, Lily? This wave of operations is a classic 1 and 2. It's just a scumbag. 1, R. P.S. Bite the shark tilde. Chapter 170. The Rotten Sword, Fearless. For full order. Next, Baizi just stared at Lily, a little lowly, with his soft and cute little cotton voice and clear eyes that couldn't be rejected, to completely control the 2 quasi-king level elf overlords in front of him. Let Absol finally agreed to accompany her to live with her. He also made an agreement with Heluga to go to the Silver Mountains to find a group for resettlement. So, the people in those Pokeballs shouldn't be your clan. I originally guessed that you were forced to bear the humiliation and burden of the clan's hands. Baizi touched the tip of his nose. He turned his gaze to Cerulean's direction. However, this time, Cerulean did not act immediately, but rather was in the midst of a tangled expression. Seeing this, Baizi suddenly raised his eyebrows slightly, and reminded aloud, Cerulean. Chiru tilde. Cerulean was stunned for a moment, and then saw Baizi gestured with his eyes to the Pokeball in his hand, and then woke up a little. Following Baizi's gaze, he turned to the Pokeball floating beside him. Some ignorant blinked, but in love, there is an obvious daze. This guy. Baizi couldn't bear it anymore, raised his hand and clicked on Chirulianji's little head, and said bluntly, open all these Pokeballs and see if there are any of the Heluga's kin in there. Chiru tilde. Cerulean shrank her head, and with a wave of her hand, she opened the Pokeball floating next to it. Alados, Alados, Alados. Among the dozen Pokeballs, all of them were the poisonous spider Alados. The strength is also very average, basically in the novice, middle high level under. It doesn't look like He waved his hand and used telepathy at will to let Chilean clean, wash the memories of these dozen Alados, and then use instant movement to release these guys. Subsequently, Baizi got up straight, glanced at Lily who was getting close with the two black and white, big dogs, and said with a chuckle, "Okay Lily, you should go back too, the provincial family is worried." "Yes." When Lily heard the words, she suddenly opened her mouth with a stunned expression. Suddenly she seemed to remember something, trotted to Baizi's side, tiptoed, and tugged at Baizi's sleeve. "What's wrong?" Baizi squatted down along the strength, and then, he put his arms around his neck, and printed a fragrance on his left cheek. "Woo. Thank you big brother. Also, there is this." Xiaojia, the guy smiled innocently. Afterwards, he rummaged through the small yellow bag that straddled his dress, and took out a toy dagger that looked like wood and iron. "This is Lily's thank you gift to big brother." "Oh." Baizi took it with a smile on his face. The weight was neither light nor heavy. It felt like iron to the touch, but it didn't have the slightest cold touch. He looked at him casually, although there was some familiar sense of sight, but Baizi didn't care too much. "Well then, I'll be more respectful than obedient." Just casually shaking the dagger, which didn't even have a sharp edge, I put it in my arms. Then, he hugged the little guy in front of him. "Okay, we should go too." Words fall. Baizi glanced at Absol and Haruga, who stood on either side like guardians. Finally, he turned his attention to Absol. "You should know where Lily lives, Absol. Lead the way." Absolu nodded when he heard the words, and rushed forward. Baizi, on the other hand, refused the invitation to ride Heluga. Pulling up Cerulean, who was still a little out of his mind, wrapped in his burning white thought power, he chased after Absol. Lugia flicked the triangular long tail, and followed up with a single step. "Mom." At 1:25 in the morning, Mia, who was waiting anxiously at the door of the hotel, didn't get Hassan who was guaranteed to arrive in 2 hours. More, but a familiar immature cotton sound. Mia froze, turned her head for the first time, and saw Lily who was rushing towards her. Mia rubbed her eyes in disbelief. It wasn't until Lily called out, "Mama," again with some doubts that she burst into tears. Soft enough to the ground, he hugged the little guy in front of him in his arms. "Lily. It's great, it's great." Talking. He hurriedly looked up and down again. "Lily, are you all right?" Giggle, cluck, "It's so itchy." The little guy avoided his mother's big hand, patted his wealthy airport recklessly and said, "Mom, I have nothing at all. It's my big brother." "Ah." Halfway through the conversation, Lily covered her mouth while covering her ears. "Big brother." Mia was taken aback. "Not big brother. Not big brother. It has nothing to do with the white-haired big brother." "Yes, yes." Lily blinked hard, recalling the good words she had with Baizi on the road before. The light bulb on the forehead lit up. "By the way, Big Dog number 1, and Big Dog number 2 rescued me." "Right." Saying that, Lily turned her head and said to Absol and Haruga who were protecting her, "Ah tilde. Woo tilde." Absolu and Haruga looked at each other and nodded helplessly. Mia frowned slightly, but, following her daughter's line of sight, she noticed 2 handsome elves standing beside her, like door gods. "This is Absol, Heluga. Da 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 da." Just at this moment, the sound of a helicopter's propeller rotating came from the sky. Looking at the clan emblem composed of 2 folded wings on the slow-landing falcon, Mia's eyes flashed a ray of complexity. Wings logo. More group. Behind a tree not far away, Baizi frowned slightly, recognizing this group logo that can be said to be world-famous. Afterwards, 370 looked at the burly old man with purple eyebrows and hair who jumped out of the falcon-shaped aircraft. Baizi frowned even more. Hassan. More actually came in person. Tisk tisk tisk, it seems that Lily's life experience is not simple. No wonder. No wonder it will be targeted by Silver. But one last glance at the little guy who was looking left and right looking for his figure. Secretly, Baizi couldn't help but slightly raised his forehead. I feel that within a few days, my documents will be placed on Hassan Moore's desk. Quote. And once some secrets are known, it's hard to keep them. But it's exposed, it's exposed. Even if it caught Uncle Lu's attention because of this, he wouldn't really be timid because of it. The big deal, just fight. Although he may still be far from Lu Bo in terms of hard power. But no matter what. Urgent. He is also someone who can barely pull out several top legendary battle powers. Not like the previous time. The reason why he chose to back down was because he didn't want to let his control fall into the opponent's hands. And this thing. Regardless of the reasoning, he is completely tenable. P.S. Master Itachi Tilda. Chapter 171. Electric Cat, Zeraora. Storm. For full order. Wind Festival, the wind comes to the city. The cool breeze was blowing, and the night was like water. Walking on the road back to the center of the elf paved by the brilliance of the silver moon, Baizi muttered these two terms in his mouth. This is the promise Lily made with him before she left. She promised to participate in the Festival of the Wind Festival together in Fenglai City this year. The Wind Festival is an annual large-scale celebration event unique to Fenglai City. It is said to have started from an agreement with Lugia. In the past, Fenglai City was a barren land, but people and elves lived here supporting each other. Lugia was moved by this bond, and promised to send the Wind of Grace to this land. People used this wind to develop Fenglai City. So Lugia came here once a year, and used the Holy Fire platform as a mark to send the Wind of Grace to the people and elves here every year. The coastal area north of the Chengdu area to which Fenglai City belongs. The official date of the Wind Festival is 3 days from the end of May to the beginning of June. June, let me see. Baizi clicked on the elf bracelet on his left wrist, the virtual interface rose, and a blue light curtain was reflected on the sunglasses. It's already the beginning of May, and this year's Quartz conference is scheduled for September. But the time is different. There's plenty. Putting away the watch. Baizi pondered for a while, and finally decided to accept the appointment. In addition to not wanting to disappoint Lily, a cute little loli, he also has the idea of finding time to play and relax. After all, according to his ideas. After challenging the Yuhong Gym, the next stop, the light red gym, is almost halfway across the entire length of Kanto. So spaced. Baizi intends to focus on the cultivation of elves. A group of opponents holding hands, especially a little guy who is in a high-speed growth period like iron dumbbells, will conduct a new round of training for about half a month. In this way, the Wind Festival at the end of May and the beginning of June is just the right time for everyone to relax after the training camp. It is also a combination of work and rest. Of course, in addition to these reasons, Baizi himself is very interested in Fenglai City. He is very interested in Zeraora, the phantom beast that exists only in the outskirts of Fenglai City and hides in the mountains and forests, according to what he learned in the Pokemon theatrical version of Our Story. To be frank, aside from some cute parties of different types, Zeraora, the electric cat, is Baizi's most handsome and favorite Eudemons. Zeraora in Our Story is still a bit stretched. But in the Sun and Moon chapter, the parallel world's Zeraora, who fought against the evil Eater King, the exclusive trick of volleying, the plasma lightning punch, is really handsome to him. So, the Wind Festival. The corner of Baizi's mouth was lightly raised, and he still had a decision in his heart. While thinking about it, Baizi and Chirulian have returned to the downstairs of the Elf Center. Now, the streets were empty. Baizi glanced at the balcony of his room on the second floor, and suddenly with a lot of interest, he took a few steps back, and after a few run-ups, his body was like a civet cat, climbing up the wall. To Baizi, the nearly 4-meter-long balcony was like a small earth slope. He jumped up after 3 or 2 steps. Moreover, he didn't use his arms throughout the whole process, he just flew with his feet. Step on the ground with your toes, and squat slightly. Then, Take 2 steps forward with an upright leaning forward. Almost silently, he returned to the balcony, turned his body, and lay directly on the rocking chair behind him. Soon, Cerulean slowly floated up under the lavender psychic wrap. Just landed. Then he met Baizi's cloud-like blue eyes. Tell me, Cerulean, what's going on? Tonight's Yuhong City is bound to be lively enough. Because a specially modified falcon-shaped aircraft slammed into the urban area, and emptied the entire garden hotel with a domineering attitude, and entered with a large number of private armed forces. Dee-doo, dee-doo, dee-doo. At 2 o'clock in the morning, after receiving a report from the night patrol, Miss Junsha from Yuhong City immediately notified the elite police members to go to this little-known chain hotel. At the same time, the news was reported to the headquarters as soon as possible, and a first-level warning was issued to the Alliance. She couldn't help being cautious. First, the rockets attacked Golden City, and then there was an unknown battle that spread to Lampolchi City, causing huge floods. Recently, in the Kanto region, accidents have occurred frequently. If I hadn't seen the news report, I would have learned that the other party did not take any other drastic actions except to settle in the Garden Hotel. What Junsha issued is not a first-level warning, but the highest special-level warning in the Alliance. Squeak! 5 police cars arrived in front of the hotel one after another. There was an orderly sound of footsteps, and the Yuhong Special Forces members, fully armed and armed with stun guns, rushed out of the car and quickly used the vehicle as a bunker to prevent a sudden attack. Subsequently, snapped, 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 snapped. The white light flashed one after another. As Yuhong City's highest security force, the Yuhong Special Forces consisted of 35 members. It can be described as luxurious and extravagant to the extreme. Actually, the security forces in Golden City are also quite luxurious. However, the Golden Special Team was completely attacked from the inside and was caught off guard. In addition, the opponent was a veteran powerhouse of the Heavenly King level, and all of them rushed to the street without any splash. This issue. Being shamed by Junsha in Golden City. The same as the Junsha family, Yuhong Junsha naturally dare not forget this past experience. Since the Golden Siege incident, the Yuhong Special Team has been almost ready to fight, and it is precisely because of this that they can respond so quickly in this operation. Good Jiao's is Jun Shakshun, the captain of the Yuhong City Special Forces Brigade. The people inside listen, immediately. Miss Junsha in a tight-fitting jacket with a wind-speed dog approached the hotel door under the support of the transparent explosion-proof shields of 2 special operators, holding a revolver, and the awe-inspiring words came from the loudspeaker behind her. Joey called 3 or 4 times in a row, but no one answered. Immediately his face turned cold. Bend your elbows, point your forearms vertically to the ground, make your arms L shape, and then swing forward. This is a gesture to advance the attack. P.S. Seriously, this electric cat's aura is really handsome to me. I love it, V-degree. Awesome. Chapter 172, Lizard King vs. Fire-Breathing Dragon. Immediately, for full order. At this moment, there was a heavy sound of stepping on military boots. A middle-aged man with an inch head, black hair, and a jet-black combat uniform with a reversed wings carved on the back of the clothes strode out of the hotel door. There is a height of nearly 2 meters or more. Muscle twitching. The X-shaped scar that runs across the entire face from the center of the eyebrows makes his temperament even more fierce. And as the man walked out of the hotel, Skyrim. One by one, accompanied by a sharp whistle like a whistle, a shark-like shark, whose arm and fins outstretched its wings far outstripped its kin, rushed into the arena, like a small jet plane. Standing beside the fierce man. Ka 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 ka. The almost undisguised aura of tyranny immediately swept the audience, making all the Special Forces players feel like they were facing a big enemy, and the grid guns were raised. There were even several Lizard Kings who came out of the crowd and set up leaf blades spontaneously. The whole body is tightly locked on the whole body of this fiercely biting land shark, guarding against the opponent's attack, and ready to attack at any time. Okay, bite Lu Shark fiercely, restrain yourself, don't scare these little cuties. The fierce scar-faced man patted the old man beside him. Subsequently, he completely ignored the group of special forces and the lizard kings who were swaying around him. He strode forward and came to Jun Shakshun. Without waiting for the other party to speak 370, he took out a certificate from his arms, raised it to a position parallel to his face, and then handed it forward. My name is OLs, codenamed Fei Xia, and I am currently the leader of the security emergency team of the Moore Group. Miss Junxia, this is my certificate. You can ask the backstage staff to log into the company's official website to check. Moore Group, Security Response Team. Jun Shakshun repeated a sentence, and she did not relax her vigilance for the first time, and she motioned for a lizard king to take over the other party's certificate. Check it out. Tap the communication device in the ear socket. Correspondent, make sure. Moore Group, Security Response Team, Flying Shark Owls. CC, Jun Shakshun's expression loosened, and she patted the Special Forces team member holding the explosion-proof shield in front of him and walked out. Politely handing back the documents, he saluted, Mr. Ors, right. I'm Jun Shakshun, the captain of the Yuhong City Special Forces Brigade. Why did you break into our city for no reason and forcefully expel the citizens in the hotel? I hope your company can give us an explanation. Otherwise, I have to ask for an order to have your chairman, Hassan Moore, come to our Yuhong police station to talk in person. Ors narrowed his eyes slightly, and the tyrannical color in his eyes flashed away. But soon, he adjusted his mood, with a grinning expression on his face full of scars. ACBH, we have already applied for a flight permit for the Kanto region, I believe you will soon receive. As for the violent eviction of guests from the hotel, I'm sorry. This hotel happens to be the hotel chain under our Moore Group. I don't need to inform you about the temporary closure, right? Moreover, we also paid enough compensation to the guests in the hotel, and also arranged the Yuhong Hotel in the center of the city as a substitute. So, Ors looked down condescendingly. Miss Junxia, you don't need to bother you to receive our boss in person. You. Junxia Zunxing opened her eyes and quickly confirmed the truth of the matter. She took a deep breath, waved her hand, and used the special forces to put down their firearms and temporarily disarm. Turn the revolver in your hand and insert it into the holster. Then, he walked straight towards the hotel door. But just 2 steps, he was stopped by Ors directly. Miss Junxia, what are you doing? I'm going to see Hassan Moore. Why, you want to stop me? As an Alliance citizen, he has an obligation to assist our police in their investigation. Jun Xia looked coldly. To be frank, she is on fire now. Allowing the group's private armed forces to enter the urban area on a large scale, especially in such a sensitive period. What kind of brainstorming Alliance high-level worm gave this pass? Isn't the matter in Golden City worth the wake-up call of those who are vegetarians? Sheriff Group has a problem. Even a special operations captain of hers can see things from it. Jun Shakshun doesn't believe that those politicians who are all alone in their hearts can't see it. The same is true of large local groups. An alien. A large group in the Fengyuan area. Such a rampant, unannounced intrusion into their first-tier cities in Kanto, will they be released and given a permit? To be frank. After confirming the matter from the headset, Jun Shakshun almost couldn't help swearing. What kind of permission is given by which XXX and XXX? Is the brain fed X? However, just when Jun Xia turned around, intending to bypass the other party. Stepping on one by one, Ors stopped Jun Shakshun with a big stride, frowning, and hummed, Miss Junxia, please don't make it difficult for us. Why, are you obstructing law enforcement? Jun Shakshun's face sank. Ka, just. After the words fell, the sound of guns being loaded sounded one after another, and the Lizard Kings also walked up in a light arc and surrounded them. The command came from Yalayi's ear. Jun Shakshun frowned and removed it directly. The other palm also touched the gun holster beside her leg. She didn't have any personal grudges. The matter of the Golden City was right in front of her eyes, and for the safety of Yuhong City, she couldn't be too careful. Wait for a group. There are even unnecessary conflicts. It's better than putting Yuhong City in unknowable danger. Jun Shakshun has already made up her mind. Today, she must enter this garden hotel. Hassan. More is also a must-see. Kachaol's face was also not good-looking. He didn't expect the Junsha in front of him to be so disrespectful. He couldn't help clenching his fists and making a crackling sound. Hey Tilda. The strong bite blue shark behind him also seemed to feel the trainer's mood. In the dull roar, his arms were like sickles and slowly raised. Immediately after. Fang fang, a sound of wings flashing. The head was covered in orange-red, and the huge dragon beast waving a pair of bat-like wings slowly landed down, and stayed on the top of the head behind oars. These are the final evolutions of the 3 small fire dragons of the fire department in the Kanto region, the fire-breathing dragon. And on the backs of these fire-breathing dragons, they are all seated one by one, the members of the Moore Group's security emergency team who are fully armed and have face-covering helmets with reversed wings printed on them. As a member of the Yuhong Special Forces in the Kanto region, it is formulated by the 3 families of the Grass family in the Fengyuan region. As the security emergency team of the Moore Group in the Fengyuan area, it was the 3 fire-based imperial families in the Kanto area. Lizard King vs. Charizard. Have to say, this is a wonderful coincidence. And this moment. Both sides, at one touch. At this moment, the walkie-talkie on Ors's chest pocket suddenly made a sound, and then an old voice came. Flying Shark, don't be rude, please come up this Miss Junsha. P.S. What do you think? Lu Bo's strength is probably set to be better. Let's talk about it first. In the end, I tentatively set the big boss to be Sakagi of the Rainbow Rocket team from another world. This Lu Bo is the boss to be pushed in the midterm. Let's talk about it freely, let's just follow the special chapter, or just cut it out. It's very easy to cut, I have already buried the thread in advance. Illusory body, injury, etc. 13 Chapter 173. Mysterious gift, please order. Yes, Chairman. Ors responded in a deep voice, then turned to his side, raised his hand, and said, Miss Junsha, please. Junsha didn't give the other party a good look. She walked silently over Ors and walked towards the hotel door. However, don't be embarrassed, the chairman only said that he wants to see Miss Junsha, and, for safety's sake, I don't want other people waiting to enter. Just after Jun Shakshun passed him, Ors took another step and stopped a few members of the Yuhong special team behind him who were trying to keep up. Jun Shakshun frowned, and finally said, You guys stay here and be alert. As long as my communication is not interrupted, stand by where I am. Meaning in the words. If the communication is interrupted, it will be directly attacked. Afterwards, she took out a police red and white Pokeball, put away the wind speed dog that was also stopped outside, and then turned her head and continued walking towards the hotel gate. Behind him, Als raised his eyebrows, picked up the walkie-talkie and asked. Soon, an old voice came from the walkie-talkie again. Don't worry about her, just let her up. Yes. Ors responded respectfully, but the moment he put down the walkie-talkie, he also withdrew the fierce bite of the land shark, and followed closely. Garden Hotel, top floor. Tatata, Yijun Shakshun completely ignored Ors, the flying shark who came up behind him. All the way to her on the top floor of the hotel. At this moment, I can't help but be secretly shocked. Because of a deliberate inspection, Jun Shakshun found that on every floor of this hotel, there were at least 5 sturdy trainers, and beside them, they all followed one by one covered in armor. Armored bird. The breadth of each one is in no way inferior to the elite members of her special team. At least the elite high level. Jun Sha's eyes narrowed slightly. And after she was not as good as the top floor, in the corridor in front of the 1002 door on the left, there were 10 trainers who were more powerful and also carried armored birds. At the end of the corridor, 3 trainers with nighthawks standing on their shoulders stood in a triangle. In the eyes, the ray of light blooms in turn. Jun Shakshun can recognize it. It is the trick to see through. What a tight garrison. Jun Shakshun frowned. A group's private armament, even if you don't count Ors, who is like a fart behind him. The strength and number of its members have completely crushed Yuhong City's official special forces team. However, these capitalists, one by one, were really afraid of dying to the extreme. A trace of sarcasm flashed in Junsha's eyes, and she immediately walked towards the left side of the stairs. One by one, however, just as she got a little closer, 10 pairs of yin-prey bird eyes immediately stared at her whole body in a neat and uniform manner. Just around the corner. It seems that as long as she takes a step closer, she will attack directly. Jun Shakshun became alert subconsciously. Her right hand touched the holster beside her leg, and the elf ball in her left palm also made a trembling sound. The wind speed dog also detected the danger signal from the outside world. However, Jun Shakshun knows very well that once the wind speed dog is allowed to come out at this time, things may really get out of hand. The elves who are anxious about the safety of their masters never care about the occasion or not. What they will do immediately is the only option to eliminate the danger. Therefore, she clenched the quivering pokeball in her hand, took a step back, and asked in a deep voice, "What do you mean?" "Ha tilde." With a chuckle, Aar's voice came from behind. "Miss Junsha, if you don't know the way, please don't rush in. The chairman's room is here." As he said that, Ors raised his palm and pointed to room 1001 on the right. Jun Shakshun looked down as Ors pointed. Eyebrows raised slightly. Because compared to the extremely tight guard in room 1002 on the left, in front of room 1001 on the right, there was only a trainer with a nighthawk standing on his shoulders guarding the door. In contrast, it can be said to be quite simple. Are you sure you're not mistaken? In fact, Jun Shakshun of course knew that the other party couldn't make a mistake. The reason why she said this was just to take the opportunity to get some information. After all, she was really curious about what exactly could make Hassan Moore made such a garrison arrangement. But Ors had no intention of answering her words at all, and just continued to point his hand. "Please." Jun Shakshun frowned slightly, and finally glanced at the room at the end of the corridor on the left. In the end, there was no further entanglement, and he turned to the other side. After being scanned by Nighthawk, he entered the room in room 1001 under the guidance of Ors. "Hansen, Mr. Moore, I. Miss Junsha." Hassan. As soon as Moore raised his hand, he stopped Junsha from questioning, and calmly closed and deleted the interface with an avatar displayed on the tablet in his hand. After a little manipulation. 0. Ask for flowers. With a solemn expression, he handed over the shield in his hand. "Miss Junsha, I like that you can listen to this thing." "This is." Jun Shakshun took it with a frown. Just as she was about to say something, a sinister voice suddenly came out from the tablet. "Hassan. Mr. Moore is really a cheerful person. If he wants your granddaughter to come back to you completely, then, the price is 2 billion. Close black lens bracket. Joey Shuan's pupils suddenly tightened. "This is kidnapping. Something big." "Hassan. Mr. Moore, don't worry, we will be safe and expensive." "Come on." Jun Shakshuan's words were interrupted again. "If your Yuhong City is really reliable, then I won't let my granddaughter be kidnapped by gangsters in Yuhong City. 0 inches if it weren't for Hassan." Moore's words paused, and then continued. "Because of a trainer's righteous action, this time, even if I fight against the Moore group, I must turn the entire Yuhong City upside down." Huh. Jun Shakshun was stunned. After a while, he said with a sigh of relief, "So, has the person been found?" "This is the evidence I left behind. I will find someone to talk to you about specific matters. Now, it's getting late, and I need to rest." Hassan. Moore snorted lightly, got up and retrieved the tablet, and after throwing it to Jun Shakshun for a USB flash drive, he opened his mouth to see off the guest. This. Hassan. Mr. Moore, we Yuhong police will give you an account of this matter. Jun Shakshun frowned slightly and glanced at the USB flash drive in her hand. After a loss, she finally got up and left. After Junsha went away, Hassan. Moore clicked on the previous character interface again, and after thinking for a while, he finally deleted the information completely. He took out a translucent blush jade bead from his arms. Dawdled twice. Handed it to Al's next to him. Flying Shark, go there in person tomorrow and send this to the Damu Research Institute in Junshin Town by post. P.S. This one, without checking the serial number, can guess the number of the elf. Chapter 174. Man of Destiny, King Shang, I want to go out please book all. Yuhong City, Elf Center, balcony on the second floor. Tell me, Cerulean, what's going on? The azure pupils shrouded in clouds and mists of Baizi were beautiful, but the light in the pupils made Cerulean feel like he was completely seen through. Cerulean's cowardly voice sounded slowly, her fingers intertwined for a while, and she finally said, I was like when I was in the warehouse before. Could it be Baizi hates it? Before. Baizi was stunned when he heard the words, but in a second he understood Cerulean's concerns. Looking at Cerulean, who couldn't see the graceful and ethereal appearance on weekdays at all, it seemed that at this moment, it had degenerated into the soft and cute appearance of Lelora's. The corner of Baizi's mouth couldn't help but raise a doting chuckle. Are you talking about the scumbag you used to deal with? 370s, Cerulean's telepathy was weak in Mosquito Kang. I just saw that person wanted to hurt Baizi, so. Thank you, Thank you, Cerulean. Baizi repeated it again, and then he hugged Cerulean, who was a little stunned, into his arms. Can't tell what the smell is. Petite and soft to the touch. Baizi pressed his chin on Cerulean's lavender hair, and said softly, thank you for being so considerate of me, thank you for being able to do this for me, Cerulean, like this how can I hate you? Baizi. A slightly sobbing voice came out from Baizi's arms. Immediately after, Baizi could feel it. The body temperature of Cerulean in his arms was gradually rising, like a furnace. After Lelora's captured the warmth of people and spirits with his red horns, his whole body would also get slightly warmer. Stand up, Cerulean, the same. The night is getting darker, the moonlight is slightly cool, and a stream of light is passing quietly above the starry sky. Under the bright moon, one person and one pet, relying on each other, seems extraordinarily harmonious. Soon, a slight snoring sound came from his arms. The corners of Baizi's mouth were slightly raised, and he cautiously walked into the inner room, placing Cerulean in his arms on the bed and covering it with a thin quilt. He gently flicked the lavender hair tips on the little guy's forehead a few times. He quietly left the room. On the balcony again. Sit down gently, leaning on the reclining chair. Although it was late at night, for some reason, he had no sleepiness for the time being. Speak up. Awakening memory, living in this world with the same sense of reality, it is not long or short, and it has been several months. But, although the time is not very long, he seems to have a lot. Crimson, Qinglu, Xiaomao, Hulong, Sharona, Shaolin, Dr. Ogi, Hanako, Joey Love, Lily. Friend, rival, admirer. And my own family, my own elves. How wonderful, this world. Slowly dazed, the corners of Baizi's mouth rose slightly unconsciously, and under this gentle moonlight quilt, he entered a predictable sweet dream. And in this very moment, the spiritual perfection also seems to have touched the energy of Baizi in the body. Floating slightly, a mist-like colorless light curtain appeared around Baizi. At the chest, the dagger that Lily had given him was wrapped in this light curtain, and slowly floated into the air from Baizi's coat, more than 3 inches. On it, one side of the sword body, like a pen walking a dragon and a snake, lit up a series of characters that shone slightly. Soon, as the light curtain faded away, the dagger, which had already changed drastically, also fell as if it had lost its power, lying between Baizi's chest and abdomen. Only those characters on the sword are still under the moonlight, shining with a faint light that fades away. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. At the same time, in the Galar region, in the southwest corner, in the misty forest. This is. A blue wolf-shaped elf sleeping soundly in the thick fog suddenly got up as if awakened by something. The special telepathy echoes, with the beauty and elegance of a noble female knight. With pale blue fur, his posture is also noble and awe-inspiring. Although her body is covered with scars and disabilities, it will not conceal her luxurious bearing in the slightest. Walk lightly. Like the flowers of the battlefield blooming in the temper of blood and fire. Beautiful and inviolable. She is one of the top legendary spirits in the Galar region 0. The hero of 100 battles, known as a hero, is known as the King of Swords who can cut everything in the world, also known as the Sword of the Fairy King, King Shang. At this moment, King Shang jumped straight up to a high platform, looking suspicious, over the dense forest, the wasteland, and even the endless sea. And threw it in a certain direction to the southeast, looking far into the distance. Sister, what's wrong with you? Accompanied by a slightly thick telepathy sound, a wolf-shaped elf with saffron fur that looks somewhat similar to King Shang slowly walked out of the dense forest behind him. Then he jumped up and stood side by side with King Shang. It is another brave warrior in the Galar region. He is also a top legend, the King of the Shield with the title of the Fighting King's Shield, King Zhang's younger brother, Zhangmarant. I sense the existence of the sword, and the man of destiny who awakened the sword. King's voice was unhurried. But as a sister and brother who got along with each other day and night, Zhangmarant could hear the imperceptible throbbing in her sister's calm voice. So, are you going to find this person, sister? Not bad. King Shang simply said, since humans have developed the Galar region aggressively, they have rarely walked out of the sleepy forest. Especially the latest sleep. Not only did they lose their perception of the poisonous dragon Wuji Taina, but even the sword and shield that were stored on the altar in the center of the Yi forest have disappeared. To know. That is the key for their siblings to stimulate their potential power and transform the form of 1.7 feet King of Swords, and King of Shield. What's more, the person of destiny who can fully stimulate the power of the sword, has also appeared. You guard Galar, I want to go out. King Shang quickly restrained his thoughts. As an activist, after instructing Zhangmarant, he seemed to turn into a blue streamer, broke through the thick fog, and quickly disappeared in front of Zhangmarant. Zhangmarant silently stared for a moment in the direction where the sound disappeared. Then he jumped off the high platform and slowly disappeared into the dense fog that closed again. Chapter 175, Baizi who is speechless, please complete the order. Early the next morning, after having breakfast together, Baizi said hello to the auspicious eggs left behind, and took Natsi out of the elf center, heading towards the Yuhong gym. As for the dagger that caused a change last night. Because Chirulian, who got up early in the morning, packed it up and put it in the backpack, Baizi temporarily left it behind. After all, this short sword, which looks like a handicraft, is just a return gift from this little guy Lily in his heart. Could it be a treasure given by a little loli from a few years old? As far as he knew, the only items in the shape of swords were King Zhang's exclusive item, the Sword of Decay. Not always. The treasures of Galar, which are far away hundreds of millions of miles away, will end up in Kanto, and it happened to pass through the hands of Lily, and finally fall into his hands, right? This possibility. Baizi didn't even think about it at all. When passing by a store in the downtown commercial street, Baizi smelled all kinds of strange aromas from the store. He raised his head slightly. On the signboard of the store, O2 is lined up with several large characters composed of neon lights. Lija Perfume Shop. Baizi read it out slowly, and a flash of clarity flashed in his eyes. Speak up. Almost all the masters of the most important 8 great avenues in the Kanto region regard the position of the official gym master of the alliance as a sideline. Not to mention the Victory Gym, the owner is just a vest on Sakagi Akira, whose main job is the leader of the underground organization Rocket Team. Then there is Xiaogang from Nibi Gym, who is a housewife and male, and his dream is also a logistical auxiliary occupation such as elf caregiver and elf nurturer. Then there are the 3 sisters of Wallen Taoist Hall. Not to mention, people mainly perform water ballet performances, gym trainers. By the way, there are also people like Mazishi, who is in charge of city security. The retired soldiers speak out, and the gym owner is just a place for him, which belongs to the second re-employment. Aju of the light red gym is a ninja. Shabo of the Red Lotus Gym was the Fire King of the previous generation, and as an elf doctor, he still had a somewhat ambiguous relationship with Team Rocket, and now he mainly manages the Red Lotus Bath. Gym owner. This is a part-time job at best. Even Nazi, who was beside him, just used the Golden Gym as a shelter, and by the way, he used the air conditioner to teach a few unlucky ghosts. Then there is Lija, the master of Yuhong Gym, who he is going to challenge today. Speak up. This should be the most competent gym trainer in the position of the gym owner. However, Lija also has several roles. She is an honorary lecturer at Yuhong University, and she is also a very famous perfumer in Kanto and even in the world. Her perfumes are more than just ordinary scents. It has the functions of increasing intimacy, relaxing and calming the mood of humans and elves, even soothing the mind and curing abnormal states. The function is very powerful. Of course, the price is not cheap. It can be said that Lija's talent in making perfume is much stronger than that of a trainer, and it is no exaggeration to say that she is a perfume master who was delayed by the gym owner. What's wrong? Seeing Baizi stop, Nazi tilted her head and asked. The special effect perfume in Yuhong City is a must in Kanto. Since I have encountered it, there is no reason to miss it. Baizi said with a light smile. In addition to the high price, the special effect perfume of Lija Perfume Shop can indeed be regarded as a rare good thing. Whether it is for daily use or in the wild, it can be used many times. As for expensive, for Baizi, who is worth millions, this is not a problem. As for Baizi's decision, Nazi has never had any objection, and she nodded immediately, okay. Welcome. Pushing open the glass door, as soon as he entered, there were several sweet welcome sounds in his ears. All the employees in Lija Perfume Shop are Lija's students, each of them, Spring Chrysanthemum and Autumn Orchid, each with their own characteristics, and they are all beautiful and temperamental beauties. Sir, thank you for your praise and liking for our Lija Perfume Shop. I can make the decision and give you a 15% discount on the perfume you bought today. Baizi followed the voice. Between the words, a gentle woman in a kimono with a princess hair came towards her. The store manager. The previous 3 opened their mouths to welcome the guests, and the young ladies and sisters with their own characteristics immediately shouted. Baizi touched his nose. Obviously, what he said at the door before should have been heard by the beautiful store manager. Then I'll be disrespectful. Baizi smiled heartily, but did not pretend to shirk. So, what type of perfume are you going to choose? The beautiful store manager walked to Baizi's side and asked softly, soothing the mind, eliminating abnormal states, increasing intimacy. Or, adding charm. The beautiful store manager glanced at Nazi, who had not said a word since entering the store, not even the slightest reaction. Although it is a cold temperament that refuses people thousands of miles away, the beautiful store manager also has to admit that this is a beautiful girl whose appearance is far superior to her, and is on par with their boss, Miss Lija. Speaking of which, although this little guy is wearing sunglasses, he can still tell that he is a very handsome and super handsome guy. 370. Huh. After leaving the door of Lija Perfume Shop, Baizi, who was leading a large bag of perfume, couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. He just pulled the frame slightly. Then, The enthusiasm of the beautiful shop manager and the 3 shop assistants suddenly increased abnormally. It just made him a little bit overwhelmed. If it wasn't for Nazi, the natural freezer that kept releasing air conditioning, Baizi wondered if he would be swallowed alive by 4 tigresses. Don't use your eyes to look directly at other women at close range and for a long time in the future. Otherwise, people with weak mental strength or low defense will easily be overwhelmed by sudden feelings. Nazi Qinglang, the voice suddenly came from beside him, making Bai Zewin stunned. What do you mean? Simply put, it means that you used a charming skill, and the other party was charmed by you and fell into an abnormal state of fascination. Nazi said concisely. Bai Z, speechless. P.S. Pachi Liz, a little cute tilde. Chapter 176, Challenge Yuhong Jim, Lija's Overlord Flower. For full order. After coming out of Lija perfume shop, it didn't take long for Bai Zi to lead Nazi to Yuhong Taoist Hall. Speak up. The shape of Yuhong Jim is also unique. It is a building that looks like a stinky flower. This look is obviously a continuation of the style in the anime. According to the plot in the anime, Lija was attacked by stinky mud because she got lost when she was very young, and a passing stinky flower rescued her. It is for this reason that a bond is established between the two. It was for this reason that Lija was determined to become an excellent grass-type elf trainer. Same. After taking over as the head of the gym in Yuhong City, in order to commemorate the smelly flower, Lija also transformed it into what it is today. However, according to the progress of the anime, wasn't this gym set on fire once by Team Rocket? Baizi touched his chin, wondering in his heart. Because as far as his eyesight was concerned, there was no trace of being burned by the flames around the building at all. Or maybe it's because of the butterfly effect. With this thought in mind, Baizi walked across the lawn in front of the building, took Nazi up the stairs, and came to the gate of Yuhong Taoist Hall. The automatic sensing glass door slid open to both sides. The first time they entered, the 2 girls in business attire with good body and beautiful appearance, wearing red scarves. Welcome, are you here to visit, study, or challenge the gym? Thank you, I'm here. Challenge the rainbow badge, Baizi said politely. Is that so? The blue short-haired girl at the head nodded clearly, and raised her hand very enthusiastically to lead the way. This way, Miss Lija happens to be in the flower room in the backyard. The interior of the gym is mostly plants. It is known that it was specially transformed, which is very suitable for the life of grass elves. On the way. From time to time, some walking grass will be encountered. The little guys either ran and played as if no one else was there, or secretly hid behind the plants, observing the 2 strangers, Bai Zinazi. Miss Lija, a challenger is coming. Following the blue-haired girl's voice, Bai Zi, who walked into the backyard, also met Lija, the owner of the Yuhong gym, for the first time. Tea hair, yellow jacket sleeves, red roof skirt waist, full of youth and beauty. To be frank, in terms of appearance alone, it is indeed comparable to Nazi. However, compared to Nazi's coldness, Lija's temperament is more gentle, as if she is a well-educated eldest lady, and at the same time, she is also pure. Just tea hair. A hint of surprise flashed across Baizi's slightly astonished expression. After all, Lija in the anime should have blue hair. According to the appearance of the building, he thought that Lija was also the version in the anime. Are you here for a challenger? Lija was stunned when she heard the words, turned her head slightly, smiled apologetically in the direction of Baizi and Nazi, and then gently wiped the drool from the corner of her mouth for the smelly flower beside her. Okay, let's go play. Rubbing the buds of the smelly flower with a silly expression rubbed against Lija's knee, and walked away staggeringly. And only then did Lija get up and apologize. I'm sorry for making you wait for a long time. It's nothing. Baizi shook his head with a smile, and then said, I'm Baizi from Junshin Town, I'm here to challenge the rainbow badge of Yuhong Gym. Excuse me, can we start now? True New Town. Lija looked slightly startled. Is there a problem? No, it's just that I met a few trainers from Junshin Town before, and they were all impressive. Li Jia covered her mouth and chuckled. Is that so? Bai Zi touched his nose, but when he thought about it carefully, the fighting maniac, the arrogant monster, the young master's illness, the reckless ghost. All of these are not impressive. Soon, under the guidance of Li Jia, the few people came to a spacious battle room surrounded by green trees with a bright ceiling. Natsi and a few girls from the Yuhong gym made their way up the observation ladder. One of the girls with green double ponytails stood in the middle as the referee. Bai Zi and Li Jia stood on the left and right of the opposing battlefield. The rules of the game are 3-on-3. Only the challenger can change the elves. If one elves lose their ability to fight, it means the other team wins. The green-haired twin-tailed ponytail read out the rules of the game loudly. After it is determined that there is no objection between the two parties, immediately waved his hand and said, "Then, the Yuhong Gym Challenge, which is based on the Rainbow Badge, officially begins. Go on, Overlord Flower." As the voice of the green double ponytail fell, Li Jia threw a red and white special Pokeball into the field without hesitation. Red light flashes. Standing on one foot, with an indigo-blue bulbous body and legs, a genie with a flower composed of 5 huge petals with bright red round white spots and an orange spindle in the middle on its head, appeared in the field. The Overlord Flower is the final evolution of the walking grass, which is the most common grass-type elf in the forests of the Kanto region. There is also a stage of smelly flowers in the middle. Compared with the weak walking grass, as the final evolution after the second stage evolution, the strength of the Overlord Flower belongs to a relatively excellent class of dust among the many grass elves. Especially the unique odor attack at the stinking flower stage, the Overlord Flower has not only inherited it perfectly, it has even become more terrifying in terms of range, efficacy, concentration, etc. Hao Jiao's. And, compared to the timidity of the walking grass and the solitariness of the smelly flower before evolution. Although the Overlord Flower is still a grass elf, hidden under the harmless expression is the brutality that is not inferior to other top predators in nature. Its poisonous spore-sprinkled petals are used to attract prey. And once the prey is paralyzed, the Overlord Flower will grab it and devour it directly. Overlord's name is worthy of the name. P.S. As shown in the picture, I personally feel that this version of Li Jia is more beautiful. Chapter 177. vs Overlord Flower, Amazing Grass Slide. For full order. It's kind of interesting. Feeling the awe-inspiring fighting spirit that came from Li Jia on the opposite side, Bai Zefeng raised his eyebrows. Originally, he thought Li Jia was that kind of gentle player, but did he expect that his fighting spirit would be so high? Immediately afterwards, the voices of the girls from the Yuhong gym in the stands also followed. It turned out to be the Overlord Flower. Did Miss Li Jia go all out in the first battle? This is her initial spirit. I don't know, maybe it's because of the fighting spirit. After all, the trainers who came out of Junxin town before are not easy. Tisk tisk tilde, it's the initial elf. Go all out. This little temper doesn't look like a grass-type trainer at all. Open black lens bracket race. Overlord Flower close black lens bracket. Attribute: grass poison. Characteristics: chlorophyll. Level: Quasi King Peak, level 59, 8100. Potential: King of Heaven. HP: 70, attack, 80, defense, 85, special attack, 110, special defense, 90, speed, 50. Skills: Falling Flowers, Sweet Scent, Paralysis Powder, Poisonous Powder, Hypnotic Powder, Green Grass Slide, Sunny Day, Green Grass, Dissolving Liquid, Ultimate Absorption, Growth, Sunbeam. Genetic Skill: Photosynthesis. Item: Black Sludge. When the carrier has a poison attribute of 370, he will recover 1/16 of his maximum physical strength at the end of each round. Open black lens bracket status. Perfect close black lens bracket. Introduction. The Overlord Flower with excellent qualifications has a talent different from that of the usual flower in the use of powder, and the coordination is amazing. Are you at the peak of the King of Heaven? Baizi pushed up the sunglasses that had slipped down, and a wisp of doubt flashed across his dazzling eyes. He could understand everything else, but what does this amazing coordination mean? With a few exceptions, grass sprites are notoriously slow. And the action power of Overlord Flower is even more touching. In that case, what's the point of this so-called stunning coordination? At the same time of doubts in his heart, Baizi also determined the elf he was going to play next. The Stingray, fight. Plain words, and there is no special release action. Tap the button, raise the arm horizontally, and in the red light that spurts out, a mega-shaped giant needlebee like a metal creation deforms. Quietly suspended in the field, his scarlet cold eyes stared at the opponent in front of him. This is an alienated and flashing giant stinger. Li Jiadan opened her mouth slightly, her eyes filled with brilliance. Although she likes grass elves. But in the world of elves, precious and rare elves have always aroused people's amazement. The young ladies and sisters in the stands were already talking about it at this time. Baizi nodded slightly. After a brief exclamation, Li Jia quickly recovered and said, "Then, let's officially start. According to the rules of gym battle, the challenger will attack first." Good. Baizi nodded slightly, and immediately ordered without politeness, "Big Needle B, move at high speed. Use double needle attack." Li Jia is indeed a charming beauty, but as long as it is fighting, Baizi will not deliberately keep her hands. Go all out, but also respect your opponent. Not to mention, Shangwanghua is extremely rich in transforming skills, and also has the 3 powder skills of annoying, poisonous powder, and paralyzing powder, as well as the unique odor flower powder. Once dragged into the opponent's rhythm, let alone a field battle with limited space. At that time, the other party will be sprinkled with pollen. The giant stingrays lacking the restraint powder flying skills can be uncomfortable. The best way to restrain a changing elves like Overlord Flowers is to use various ACBH psychic attack moves against the state class. Especially evil provocations. Blocking the opponent's changing skills directly for a certain period of time can be said to be the most suitable first-hand skill for Overlord Flowers. But unfortunately, all the above methods can't be used by the Hornet. Because of its current skill pool, almost all of it is used for attacking skills. Therefore, Baizi simply wanted to be a little bit more straightforward. Is it difficult to deal with? Can't stop. Then I will attack directly, without giving you a chance to react, and strive for a set to take you away. The large needlebee fluttered its wings in an instant, completed the change from static rotation, directly pulled out shadows in midair, and its irregular route crossed half the field in the blink of an eye, and bullied the Overlord. The front of the flower. Everyone just felt a blink of an eye. At the beginning, the phantom of the giant hornbee had not dissipated, and another giant hornbee had already appeared behind the Overlord flower. Double needle held high. Like 2 deadly spears, they stabbed straight towards the indigo body under the huge flower of the Overlord flower. So fast. Li Jiaxing opened her eyes, and the speed of the giant stinger was really beyond her expectations. However, even if the first mover was lost, the reaction of Li Jia and Bawangwa made everyone present brighten their eyes. Grass slide. Shua, in this sudden loud shout, Overlord Flower fell forward as if the soles of her feet were slipping. At the same time, the bright green halo lit up at the feet, as if the soles of the feet of the king flower were smeared with oil, keeping the body leaning back, and drawing out at an angle that was almost rubbing the ground, rubbing shoulders with the giant needlebee. And pass. Sting, but even so, the so-called world's largest petal on the head of the king flower was still cut 2 not small gaps by the needles quickly cut by the giant needlebee. However, this injury is optional for Overlord Flower. The huge petals are not its main body. The petite indigo blue body underneath is the root of the Overlord Flower. And in the same way, after paying the dispensable price, it also took this opportunity to distance itself from the giant stinger bee, and successfully escaped from the deadly double needle of the giant stinger bee. And, after sliding for a certain distance, you spun in place, and then stood up steadily again. Wonderful. Quote. Seeing this, Baizi couldn't bear it, and secretly applauded Li Jia's improvisation and the action of Overlord Flower. At the same time, he finally understood what the stunning coordination above the data panel meant. This Overlord Flower has indeed been cultivated quite well. P.S. Miss Skirt Tilda. Chapter 178. Rainbow Aura, do you want to change the elves? Please complete the order. In the field, Baizi and Li Jia looked at each other, and immediately ordered at the same time. Large Needle B, continue, move at high speed. Bawangwa, use the mixed powder. One by one saw the big Needle B, flicking the needle arm, and then a few layers of invisible ons appeared and quickly spread throughout the body. In the next second, the big Needle B turned into a streamer, and went straight in a zigzag shape in the direction of the Overlord Flower, as fast as lightning. But the huge petals above the head of the Overlord Flower shook, and the pink, sparkling hypnotic powder suddenly swayed from the petals and spread all over the body in an instant. A natural protective net composed of powder is formed. But it's not over yet. After swaying a layer of hypnotic powder, the petals on the top of Bawanghua's head continued to shake. Following that, the orange mist-like paralysis powder, the gorgeous lavender poisonous powder, and the thick yellow-brown stench were swept out one after another. The four kinds of powders complemented each other, and they were mixed together to form a rainbow-like streamer. Like a tidal wave. Surrounding, surging, with the Overlord Flower as the center, it began to spread towards the entire battlefield. Is this what is called a mixed powder? Baizi's eyes narrowed slightly. Without any instructions, the big Needle B calmly and slowly retreated, and was stuck 1 meter away from the rainbow aura, neither in a hurry nor in a hurry. How is it? Li Jia's eyes were bright, and her tone was not bragging, but a kind of expectation. I have been running in with Overlord Flower for a long time with this trick, and the previous trainers from Junxin Town faced this trick completely. And they have suffered a lot. Li Jia is undoubtedly full of enthusiasm for elves. Although he looks very demure, he appears to be very leisurely on weekdays, a person who even falls asleep while sitting. It becomes very cold during battle. And after a good fight, he will be in high spirits. Li Jia, longing for a strong opponent, and a wonderful duel. Oh! Baizi raised his eyebrows when he heard this. Needless to say, Xiaoji, as the #1 accidental trainer in Junxin Town, this guy's example does not have a normal analogy. But neither Chalu nor Xiaomao looks like a guy who will be stumped by simple powder skills. Unless this powder is not simple. It has a particularity that is difficult to solve by ordinary methods. Thinking of this, Baizi's eyes narrowed slightly, and he immediately shouted in a deep voice, Big Needle B, try it out, use a missile needle. Beer tilde. The big Needle B immediately understood, and slightly retreated for a distance. The needle arm swung, and the action of stabbing with a long spear. Next second. As the white light floated, the large-scale needle-shaped energy body in the shape of a triangular pyramid detached from the needle arm raised by the giant Needle B and flew towards the colorful mist in front of him. Only one. But it was like a blocking bullet that came out of the chamber, propelled wildly in the exploding sonic boom cloud, and with the tearing sound of the air, it went straight into the mixed powder swayed by the Overlord Flower. Stabla 1 After witnessing the scene after the missile needle was plunged into the powder, Baizi's eyes suddenly shrank. The missile needle, whose kinetic energy is comparable to that of a bullet, not only passed through as he expected, but it was as if it was caught in an amazingly dense glue. However, after flying 3 to 5 meters, it was unable to move forward. And these mixed powders also appear to be surprisingly corrosive. After the missile needle entered the powder range, it continued to disintegrate the energy body composed of insect energy factors. After the missile needle managed to fly 3 to 5 meters, only the size of a rivet was left. One more moment. It was already eroded away, and only a wisp of blue smoke rose up, submerged by the gorgeous mist that followed. Amazing density and corrosiveness. There was a ray of admiration in Baizi's eyes, and he couldn't help but exclaim, It's really not a simple mixing skill. It can mix 4 different powders into one, and produce such an amazing chemical reaction. To accomplish such a trick, I am afraid that only a perfume master who knows all kinds of powder ingredients. Miss Leja, you are alone. Where? 0. Ask for flowers. Baizi's praise was completely sincere, and Leja couldn't help but blushed when she heard it. It's certainly not something to be teased about. It's just that Baizi's praise just scratched her itch. The ability to fight was recognized, and the achievements in perfume were also revealed, and normal people would feel happy. Not to mention, the one who praises himself is a super handsome guy like Baizi. This is like the readers and gentlemen walking on the road. Suddenly the fairy sister came to face, and said, Yanzu, long time no see. It's the same. Alright, back to the book. After complimenting, Baizi's expression was still indifferent in the face of such a difficult mixed powder, and his eyes were full of victories. 0. This made Leja murmur a little in her heart. The kid named Ash did her a little favor, so she put a little water in the second battle and gave out the rainbow badge. As for the remaining 2. After the arrogant eldest young master changed the spirit, the red steel flying insect she didn't know happened to have the rain-seeking skill. Although her mixed powder is special, it is not waterproof after all. After being broken by the wet, under the storm-like attack of the opponent, she made a short move and finally lost the game. The one with the red eyes in the back is even more extreme. After replacing the sprite. In other words, it is a Kirby beast that is obviously oversized. She directly used her strength to break the trick. She emerged from the Pokeball and appeared in midair. An earthquake smashed it down. The field of her previous number 1 battle room was still in a semi-collapsed state. However, these 2 points are obviously not something that the giant stinger can do. So, do you want to change sprites? The flow of Lejia's eyes. Several. Chapter 179, Cut Off. Win. Advance again. For full order. Big Stinger, Gauntlets. The Big Stinger couldn't use the rain to neutralize it, and it didn't have the weight of Kirbymon, but it still had a solution to the current predicament. Therefore, it is of course impossible for Baizi to change the spirit. Now. Following Baizi's order. Next second. A layer of splendid purple energy armor rose from the needle arm of the giant needlebee, and quickly began to spread throughout the body. In no time. A large needlebee wrapped in a lavender translucent energy armor appeared in front of everyone. Baizi had a glimpse of him in the warehouse before, but now he looks carefully. Mechanically metallic finish. Plus this layer of translucent lavender energy armor. Filled with a mechanical punk-like sense of technology, it can be said to be very cool. Even Baizi couldn't help but light up. Not to mention the ladies and sisters in the stands, including Leja, couldn't help but let out a short exclamation of 370s. And on the field. Opposite. After the giant stinger, who had completed the full body of the gauntlet, looked at Baizi, it had a tiny worm head as if it was enlightened. It did not rush directly into the approaching mixed powder. Pull back a little distance. Sword dance. In the sound of the command, the big needlebee lowered his eyes and meditated, and all of a sudden, layers of arrogance surged up. It didn't take a moment for a circle of energy swords to emerge and surround itself. Sword dance, complete. With the armor on, the sword dance is complete. The big needlebee, who had no worries at all, flickered with scarlet ons in his eyes, and charged a little bit of energy, then put a high-speed movement on himself, and rushed up suddenly. Whoosh one by one, due to the sudden burst of speed, in the sharp air hissing sound, the large needlebee directly pulled out a afterimage like a clone. In an instant, he turned his head and rushed into the splendid rainbow curtain. Thorn Yi, like the sound of cloth being torn. The thick mixed powder was chopped apart by the high-speed impact of the giant needlebee with all its strength, like a drill bit that was drilled into the viscous glue. Although it was hindered by constant pulling, it still rushed towards the overlord flower. The corrosive power in those powders infects the energy armor on the surface of the giant needlebee, making a rustling sound of corrosion. Light smoke rises and is quickly dissolved. This level of erosive power is enough to imagine the horror of this mixed powder. If it is thrown into someone, I am afraid that the skin will break open and the flesh will be light. But, although the erosive power of these mixed powders is strong, it cannot be done in a short period of time to break the energy armor on the surface of the hornbee. Before it eroded the energy armor of the giant hornbee, at the speed of the giant hornbee, it had already rushed to the front of the king flower, giving it a fatal blow. Baizi saw this very clearly, and Li Jiao also noticed it. Bite your lower lip lightly. Li Jia's expression flashed a ray of determination. Overlord flower, use growth. Then destroy the dead light. The protection of the energy armor, coupled with the impact of the rapidity, made the mixed powder protective net under her overlord flower cloth vulnerable. And once the protective net is breached, at the speed of overlord flower, even if she has had special training for this, no amount of excellent coordination ability can prevent overlord flower from being exhausted under the pursuit of the giant stinger bee. But the same. If you want to break through the high-density protective net under her overlord flower cloth, the giant needle bee must maintain enough straight-line impact. As a result, the giant stinger also loses its own flexibility. Once turned, the giant stinger will be unable to break through the defensive net composed of mixed powder in a short time like a deep quagmire. And if you don't turn, you can only choose to take this blow hard. Li Jia's translucent eyes shone with scorching brilliance, her fists clenched tightly, and she stared at the arena. In her opinion, this giant stinger, who should be slightly inferior to her overlord in rank, has been forced into a dead end by her. But the white-haired boy with sunglasses on the opposite side was too calm. Although I can't see clearly. But the kind of calmness in her gestures made her subconsciously dare not have the slightest carelessness. Even produce one. Now it is not the other party who is in deep trouble, but his own delusion. In fact, this is not a dilemma for Baizi, on the contrary, this is the situation that he deliberately facilitated. A head-to-head match, a situation where the outcome is decided by one hit. Now, on the field. Following Li Jia's instructions, the overlord flower bowed her head slightly, and the huge petals above her head quickly absorbed the grass elements in the air like a solar charging panel. Suddenly, Bawanghua's body expanded rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the height of the original 1 meter 2 grew to 1 meter 5 in the blink of an eye, and the double attack also rose a step. Immediately after, the enlarged overlord flower lowered its head, and a white energy ball with a pink energy halo as the center was gathered at the orange axis in the center of its petals. Wait until the energy ball expands to the size of half a flower. Whoosh! A huge pink-white beam of light suddenly shot out, and the strong recoil even pushed Bawanghua's body backward by a few meters. The huge beam of light also quickly crossed the distance between the two sides, and in the blink of an eye, it burst into gorgeous beauty. The mixed powder hits it head-on in the direction of the giant hornbee. It's now. Baizi narrowed his eyes. Cut it off. Use the extinction needle. Beer tilde. The big needle bee let out a soft chirping, and in the face of the oncoming destructive death light, it did not retreat, but instead advanced. At the same time, blue-green energy surged from the needle arm on its right side and wrapped around it. Like a spear swinging, it stabs at the huge beam of light that is close at hand. Swish! Just like a hot knife cutting butter, the needle arm surrounded by azure energy cuts straight through the oncoming destructive death light. The energy formed as like a drill bit. Straight through the beam of light. Dash into a place less than an inch away from the overlord flower. Side strike. Following Baizi's loud warning, the big needle bee's needle arm swung horizontally, turning from stabbing to sweeping, and with a bang, the side of the needle on the right side hit the azure blue torso of Bawanghua heavily. It was swept away directly, knocked out of the field, and planted into the bushes on the periphery of the battlefield. The smoke dissipated. The large needle bee slowly retracted the needle. Behind. The beam of light that broke the dead light suddenly collapsed into pieces of tiny light spots, and the gauntlet around the giant stinger was also broken, turning into little purple stars. The starlight points add radiance to each other. And the icy metal giant needlebee with such a background, for a while, there is a beautiful feeling. 1.7 inches so beautiful. Li Jia couldn't help sighing, and the young ladies in the stands were even more dazzled. And then, you commanded the big needlebee to defeat Li Jia's overlord flower, and you have gained a little, battle experience plus 1-2, big needlebee experience value plus 1-6, high-speed movement, double needle, sword dance, gauntlet proficiency plus 1, extinction acupuncture proficiency plus 2, beard tilde. A low-pitched insect chirping sounded, and a circle of chi like a substance rose from the body surface of the giant needlebee. The momentum keeps rising. Soon, the big needlebee officially entered the sequence of the peak of the Quasi-King. Level, Quasi-Tianwang Peak, Level 59, 15/100. Chapter 180. Get the Rainbow Badge, Miss Joy's secret location, please order. After the big needlebee defeated the King Flower, the next two duels were like a cutscene. The frog grass in the second game is not bad, at least it is only a 20th level junior elite. The third field of walking grass. Even if Baizi has already sent out the iron dumbbells he has the weakest in his hands, he has just passed his infancy and is only level 6 iron dumbbells. Other side. Still didn't even survive the impact of a special dumbbell. You commanded the extra dumbbell to kill Li Jia's walking grass in seconds, and gained a little, battle experience plus 1, extra dumbbell experience plus 1-0, impact proficiency plus 1. Terry tilde. Looking at the walking grass hiding in Li Jia's arms, Baizi touched the tip of his nose and withdrew the iron dumbbells that danced in the field as if he had ADHD. The walking grass is incapacitated, and the final winner is Baizi. With the green hair and double ponytails as the referee, the final verdict. Li Jia, who coaxed the walking grass and put it back into the Pokeball, also stepped forward, took out an 8-petal badge with rainbow-colored petals from the waistband of the red skirt, and handed it to Baizi. O2, as proof of defeating Yuhong Jim, this rainbow badge will be handed over to you, and... Saying that, a red cloud appeared on Li Jia's face, and she said a little embarrassedly, "It's not that I fooled you in the next two games, but my main force is now out of the Overlord Flower, and all of them are still in the recuperation stage." Convalescence. Baizi raised his eyebrows, took the rainbow badge, and put it in his arms. "Yeah," Li Jia nodded and said with some resentment, "the two trainers who came to Junxin Town before were not as measured as you." Baizi blinked, his expression a little weird. Obviously. Rika should be talking about the two guys Crimson and Green. But it's normal, you can't expect a fighting madman who only has the pinnacle in his heart, and an arrogant monster who doesn't want to be weaker than others to talk about pity. Because in the eyes of the two of them, trainers are only divided into strong and weak, gender or something, meaningless. That's right. Saying that, Li Jia suddenly smiled at Baizian and said, "Thank you for your mercy before. Also, I wish you a good result at this quartz conference." Looking at the warm and beautiful woman with a sweet smile in front of him, a ray of surprise flashed across Baizi's eyes. Immediately, he stretched out his hand to hold the slender jade finger raised in front of him, and said with a chuckle, "Thank you, I will win the championship of this quartz conference." Li Jia was stunned when she heard the words, because the tone of the young man in front of him was too determined, as if this was not a goal, but a declaration to inform him of victory. "Then I'll look forward to it." Li Jia withdrew the palms of the two parties that were separated at the touch of a button, and smiled sweetly. "Please look forward to it." Unconsciously rubbing his thumbs twice, after completing the challenge to Yuhong Jim, Baizi quickly left with Natsi, who got up, and returned to the Elf Center together. "Welcome to." As soon as he entered the door, Chao Yichun's voice suddenly came, "Huh? It's Baizi. What, have you successfully challenged the Yuhong Jim?" "Yes, I have successfully obtained the rainbow badge." Baizi nodded when he heard the words, then squatted down slightly, hugged the auspicious egg that rushed over, and rubbed the other party's soft little head. Watching it wiggle its chubby figure, went to the side to help. "Miss Joy is really good at calling people." Fufu only came last night and has already worked with you today. Giggled Tilda. Miss Joy was immediately amused by this sentence. Her shoulders trembled, and she said overjoyedly, "It's only been a few days since I've been through the door, so I'm just protecting it. From now on, we, my maiden family, can't be called Chant, or else." Baizi spread his hands. Immediately, the two looked at each other and laughed together. Baizi has always paid attention to interpersonal communication. Just like the previous Jiro and Rika. Without affecting their own interests, it will not be a loss to form a good relationship. There is no doubt about Baizi's sincerity to Gili Egg. But using words, expressing this sincere and cryptic use in an impressive way, and using this to bring the relationship closer, what he gained was an invisible network of relationships. After joking for a while, Baizi returned to the topic. "By the way, Miss Joy, do you know where there is a better concealed personal training venue nearby?" Although Gili Egg was assigned to work. But Baizi could see that the little guy was completely enjoying it. What's more, Baizi had promised Gili Eggs to stay in Yuhong City for a period of time before, and it happened that Baizi also planned to use this time to start the first stage of training. As for why choose a more hidden personal venue? On the one hand, the elves in his hands are more sensitive. More important. It was Baizi who wasn't sure what kind of movement would happen when he used the Chief Awakening mark on the Wind Speed Dog. Therefore, a sufficiently private environment is necessary. Is there a better personal training venue with better privacy? Chao Yichun nodded his chin, and after thinking for a while, his eyes suddenly lit up. "By the way, I know a place. It's secluded enough, no one is there for many years, the area is vast, there are all kinds of simulated environments, and it's also habitable. It's definitely suitable for you." "Oh, there is such a good place." Baizi suddenly became interested. "Of course." Chao Yichun smiled mysteriously, rummaged through the counter, took out an electronic card and handed it to Baizi. "Hey, the location is in the suburbs south of the city. The only building there is the place I introduced to you. Say it first, don't be too surprised when you get to the place." "Really?" Taking the electronic card, Baizi raised his eyebrows. To be frank. At this time, he also became a little interested in Miss Joy's half-concealed secret location. P.S. Shishi Blue Bird Tilda.